We are about to begin. Everyone, please settle down. We are about to begin. Good afternoon and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing on the Committee on Children and Youth, Join with Education. At this time, we ask that everyone silence all electronic devices. If you would like to testify, please see the sergeants at the back and fill out a slip. If you would like to have any questions throughout this hearing, please see one of the sergeant of arms, and no one is to approach the dais. Chairs, we are ready to begin.
Good afternoon. I'm Councilmember Althea Stevens, Chair of New York City Council Committee on Children and Youth. I'm joined by my council member and comrade, Rita Joseph, Chair of the Committee on Education, for today's joint hearing on educational access in New York City juvenile detention centers. In addition to today's oversight topic, we are also looking forward to hearing the following legislation. Intro 987, sponsored by Councilmember Joseph, in relation to a pilot program to develop and distribution of educational materials regarding the surplus of food in public schools. Reso 1017, sponsored by Councilmember Joseph, in relation to calling on the state to pass and the governor to sign legislation to compile the bills to establish a citywide educational leadership team. Reso 1018, also sponsored by Councilmember Joseph. She has all the bills today. Calling on the state to pass and the governor to sign legislation requiring each district leader team and school leadership team to include one student representative as a member of such teams within New York City Public Schools. Love that one. I don't think I'm on it. Please add me to that. Reso 1019, sponsored by Councilmember Joseph, also calling on the state to pass and the governor to sign to require the district leaders teams operating under open meeting law requirements. Reso 842, sponsored by Councilmember Joseph, in relation to recognizing the month of March annually as Music in Our Schools Month in the city of New York. As the youth in the city's detention and placement centers continue to increase, we must stay focused and provide every youth with consistent, high-quality education. And I know these numbers are increasing in our juvenile detention center, but it is important for us to make sure that we are working on getting these numbers down, because I say this very often, that any child that's in detention, we all as adults in this room have already failed. So we also need to make sure we're keeping our eye on making sure kids do not end up here. But in the meantime, it is deeply troubling that according to recent letters from Legal Aid Society, nearly 100 youth have on any given day been left unhoused, meaning they are lacked an assigned room and are forced to sleep in classrooms, hallways, visiting areas, and other shared common space. Not only do those young people endure unsafe and chronic sleeping conditions, but the use of classroom space as sleeping quarters directly interfere with the instruction for both unhoused youth and their peers. Additionally, because youth attending school with the cohort they are housed with, it is unclear whether unhoused youth are being consistently included in the classroom instruction. We've also heard from far too many public defenders that young people who want to attend school are simply not being taken to class, whether it's due to short staffing, a lack of available classroom space, or other operational challenges. The result is the same. Youth are being denied the education access they are legally entitled to. Furthermore, advocates and legal service providers have raised concerns about the gaps in passages instruction, including staffing shortages, outdated or insufficient classroom technology. They also report on the lack of specialists, including special education teachers, counselors, speeches, and occupational therapists, leaving many students with the support they are legally entitled to. We must ensure that academic pathways to graduations are recognized as essential and not overlooked. Youth have clear opportunities to pursue credentials and skills that align with their strengths, interests, and long-term goals. With the right instruction, tutoring, and academic support, youth in custody can succeed, but only if we provide real, reliable pathways that set them up for success once they return to their communities. Our goal today is to understand the barriers to deliver education in detention centers, as well as youth in close-to-home placement, and identify solutions that led to meaningful, stable, sustainable outcomes. I look forward to productive conversation with the administration on how they can address the concerns raised by providers and the strategies they are developing to strengthen passages, academics, and support young people successfully re-entering society. Now, I would like to turn it over to my colleague and Councilmember Rita Joseph for her opening statement.
Thank you, Chair Stevens. Good afternoon. Councilmember Rita Joseph, Chair of the Committee on Education. I am pleased to join Committee on Children and Youth and its Chair, Stephen, for today's oversight hearing on educational access in New York City's juvenile detention centers. Justice-involved students have a right to education. Research consistently shows that engaging in meaningful education activities, job training, and social-emotional support is linked with reducing reincarceration rates and strong reentry outcomes. A high-quality education is not a privilege. It is one of the most effective tools we have for rehabilitation, economic stability, and community safety. Yet, is that the educational programming within New York City's juvenile detention facilities is fragmented, inconsistent, and the consequences for youth are severe. Disrupted learning makes it significantly harder for youth to earn credits, graduate high school, or transition successfully back into their community placement or home schools. It is also significantly increases likelihood of reincarceration. An April 2025 audit by State Controller found that youth at New York City's Horizon and Crossroad juvenile detention centers miss between 13% and 73% of scheduled school days. This is an extraordinary range that reflects a system breakdown in access to education. It is also found that only a fraction of students entitled to special education services receive them, most of whom were chronically absent. Additionally, the committee has heard concern reports, broken classroom technology, and staffing shortages that routinely prevented youth from attending classes for weeks at a time. This is unacceptable. Every day a child is denied a quality education is a lost opportunity for growth. Today, we'll hear from New York City Public Schools, ACS, and other interested stakeholders, and the committee will ask, what barriers continue to hinder meaningful education access for youth in detention? How is the administration addressing operational failures that directly disrupt instruction? And most importantly, what steps are needed to ensure that every young person in New York City, regardless of their involvement with the justice system, receive the education they are legally entitled to? Thank you to the members of the Committee on Education who have joined us today. I would also like to thank committee staff Alejandro Cavallal, Chloe Rivera, Katie Salina, Andrew Lane Lawless, and Grace Amato, as well as my Chief of Staff, Giovanni Piquant and Joab Besuve, for their work on today's hearing. Thank you. Chair Stevens, I turn it back over to you.
I would like to acknowledge Councilmember Williams, Denowitz, Menon, Osei on Zoom, Hanif on Zoom, and Lewis, who have joined us at today's hearing so far. I will turn it over to committee staff to swear in the first panel.
Hi, please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions? Glenda Esperance.
I do.
Sharif Rashid. Meredith McDermott. Chris Tricario. And Nancy Ginsburg.
I do.
Thank you. You may begin.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Nancy Ginsburg, and I'm the Deputy Commissioner for the Division of Youth and Family Justice at the Administration for Children's Services. My role includes overseeing ACS's secure detention facilities, Horizon and Crossroads. I want to thank Chair Stevens, Chair Joseph, and the members of the City Council, Children and Youth, and Education Committees for holding today's hearing. We are pleased to be here today along with our colleagues from New York City Public Schools to testify about educational access in our detention facilities. Education is essential for young people to recognize and reach their full potential. Prior to coming to ACS, education for court-involved youth was a primary focus of my career. Since coming to ACS, I have prioritized strengthening educational opportunities and outcomes for the young people in detention. As their testimony explains in more detail, Passages Academy within New York City Public Schools provides the education on site in our secure detention facilities. Passages Academy focuses on engaging our young people in academics and social-emotional learning, providing them with the critical knowledge and skills they need to succeed in life. I want to take a moment to thank the teachers, counselors, and school leadership of Passages for all they do each and every day to unlock the promise within our students in detention. It is a true partnership each and every school day. New York City Public Schools is responsible for educational assessment, classroom instruction, and curriculum. ACS is responsible for encouraging and escorting youth to school, enhancing educational services with tutoring services, after-school programming, conducting psychosocial assessments through our partners at Bellevue, which can inform our approach to engaging youth, and vocational training, as well as arranging for and supporting opportunities for a college education. I think it is important to set some context which informs our approach to engaging each young person academically. This morning, there are 335 young people in secure detention, 170 in Crossroads and 165 in Horizon. 7 years into the implementation of the Raise the Age law, the juvenile detention centers now hold an older population than in the past. While we encourage all the young people in detention to attend school, many are older than compulsory school age, which in New York City runs through the end of the school year. A student turns 17, measured at July 1st, and are no longer legally required to attend school. Approximately 40% of the youth in detention are 18 or older. Many young people in detention were disconnected from or behind in school prior to entering detention. Passages Academy students attended school only 44% of scheduled school days prior to being admitted to detention, and 94% of the students were chronically absent prior to Passages enrollment. These students are very far behind with few, if any, credits, and some youth have not been to school at all in months or years. As such, school attendance and success is a process of continuous engagement with our young people, listening to their goals and needs, and not always a linear process. We are doing everything we can to meet our young people where they are and attempt to engage them in an academic study in a way that makes sense to them and best positions them for success while they are negotiating court appearances, sentencing negotiations, and separation from their families. A key component of our work is engaging or re-engaging youth in education. As a result of the Raise the Age law, the youth in detention have longer lengths of stay, often because of their court processing times related to highly complex cases, which provides more opportunity to engage youth in successful educational pathways. We have seen over 100 students graduate from middle and high school and attain their GEDs in the last 3 years. ACS has embarked on a robust and intentional plan to create an environment that embraces and supports education. Since the 22-23 school year, ACS built an internal education team in secure detention by recruiting youth development specialists to serve as school liaisons who support the attendance and school participation of youth. We have created non-uniform education associate positions to support students and improve communication and coordination between ACS and Passages, and added a senior education coordinator to facilitate college programming and workforce opportunities. ACS's school-based team is yielding significant improvements in student engagement, school attendance, exam completions, and graduation rates. These efforts have helped to change the culture, building facility-wide enthusiasm in support of education. ACS has continued to strengthen this work through the consistent integration of supplemental academic intervention and post-secondary opportunities, including academic tutoring, credit-bearing college courses, and career coaching. Tutoring is beneficial for many of our young people in detention, specifically those who are preparing for a GED exam, a Regents exam, or who have low literacy or math skills. ACS's contracted workforce partners, the Children's Village, CV, and the Bard Prison Initiative, BPI, provide on-site tutoring 4 days a week for 40 to 50 youth during the school day, after school, and on holidays. Tutors typically work with youth twice a week in sessions that last from 30 to 60 minutes, targeting specific areas identified through assessments and GED practice exams. Tutors consistently work with the same students, building strong relationships that support the academic achievement of the youth. CV and BPI collaborate closely with the Passages Academy administrators and the ACS education team to identify youth and subject areas in which they need additional support or individual assistance to prepare for Regents or GED exams, creating an opportunity for one-on-one learning with an adult whom they trust is particularly helpful for young people who have not had success in traditional school environments and addresses a wide range of learning styles. During the first month of school this year, tutors provided 331 tutoring sessions lasting 30 minutes or more. As a population in secure detention accommodates a larger percentage of emerging adult students, there are now increased opportunities for high school equivalency options and college courses. ACS and New York City Public Schools work collaboratively to adapt classroom spaces into computerized testing sites, physically retrofitting the space to allow the administration of GED exams. Since this advance, many youth have obtained their GED diplomas, and many more are currently completing the GED testing requirements. In addition, we now offer high school equivalency programs in the evening hours from 3 to 6 p.m. after the end of high school classes in order to ensure maximum access to academic programming. Just prior to the 24-25 school year, an MOU was signed between CUNY and ACS, and we are now in the second year of this relationship. Graduates in Horizon are enrolled with Hostos Community College and in Crossroads with Borough of Manhattan Community College, completing in-person college courses while in the secure detention facilities and earning transferable college credits. This fall, we have 53 students enrolled in college classes, with a total of 148 students who have been enrolled in college classes while in detention. Students have enjoyed engaging in a range of college classes, including Introduction to Anthropology, Introduction to Criminal Justice, Fundamentals of Public Speaking, Introduction to Sociology, Language and Power, and Introduction to Critical Thinking. In addition to formal education, ACS has strengthened programming options, both to keep young people engaged and to broaden the depth of their experiences and opportunities for learning. The current programming menu includes incentive programming associated with the behavior management system, programming to prepare young people for the workforce, and programming that supports personal development in addition to diverse arts, recreation, and life skills options. Of particular importance for this hearing, the workforce development programming in place in both facilities through our partnerships with Children's Village and Bard Prison Initiative deliver clear career exploration, work and labor market readiness, vocational training, and trade certifications to youth in the facility in the form of structured programs and individual coaching. The benefits of these partnerships are evident in the expanded and improved programs offered in conjunction with summer youth employment, where youth are earning certifications and developing marketable skills and trades. With the instruction of a skilled teacher and tradesperson, residents are earning certifications in spackling, taping, and painting, then practicing their skills within the facility. Other workforce-oriented programming includes a fashion and design entrepreneurship program, OSHA, culinary, architecture, electrician, barbering, and esthetician courses, and the popular barista program. These thoughtful programs, which allow detained youth to gain meaningful work experience, explore new industries and trades, and acquire marketable skills and certifications, are at the forefront of best practices for emerging adults. In 2021, the city and ACS voluntarily entered into an agreement with the Nunez monitoring team to assess the conditions of confinement at Horizon Juvenile Center after Raise the Age implementation. This month, in its most recent report filed with the court, the Nunez monitor found ACS to be in substantial compliance with the remaining provisions of the agreement. Further, the monitor recommended to the court that the voluntary agreement is no longer needed for ACS at the Horizon Juvenile Center, noting that it appears that the monitoring team's work with ACS is complete. Specifically, the monitor stated, the various reforms implemented by ACS have decreased violence and improved safety and have showcased ACS's and facility leadership's commitment to design and sustain a durable vision for the facility's operation that addresses youth's individual needs and supports the staff who work at Horizon. Fundamentally, the monitoring team's goal is to become unnecessary, and ACS has demonstrated its internal capacity to identify and address its problems and challenges without the need for external oversight. Now that ACS has achieved substantial compliance with the 3 final provisions in the 4th voluntary agreement, it appears the monitoring team's work with ACS is complete. With regard to education, the monitor's report states, similarly, ACS has made new investments to support the youth's academic needs. We are grateful for the assistance that we have had from the Nunez monitoring team and are extremely pleased that in recognition of the efforts and outcomes we have achieved, they have informed the court that their monitoring assistance is no longer needed. These accomplishments are due to the efforts of our detention leadership and our hardworking staff, and I am tremendously appreciative of the work they do each and every day. In conclusion, I would like to take a moment to thank all the ACS and New York City Public School staff who spend each day changing the life trajectories for the youth in detention. Their commitment to these young people is inspiring. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Rita Joseph, Chair Althea Stevens, and all the members of the Committee on Education and Children and Youth here today. My name is Glenda Esperance, and I'm the proud superintendent of District 79 schools and alternative schools and programs in New York City Public Schools. I'm joined by Sharif Rashid, one of the principals of Passages Academy, my deputy superintendent, Jerry Brito, as well as another principal from Passages, as well as other colleagues from New York City Public Schools and the Administration for Children's Services, also known as ACS. I'm pleased to be here today to discuss our work to provide high-quality educational programming in youth detention facilities, and I thank the Council for your continued support of our students. District 79, I'm sorry, I just gotta try to move this over. Okay. District 79 is a reimagined citywide district that serves approximately 50,000 students annually across 365 sites. Our 10 distinct programs are designed to meet the needs of students who have been disconnected from traditional schooling. Those include certification opportunities at Co-op Tech, adult education courses citywide, life supports for our student parents, pathways to graduation, Restart Academy, and our youth justice programs. All of our initiatives are tailored to provide a pathway to academic success, social emotional growth, and post-secondary readiness. Our mission is clear. We work collaboratively to help students earn high school diplomas, HSCs, and CTE certification, leveraging resources to build college and career readiness. In the process, we nurture the confidence of our students so they are equipped with the skills needed to thrive in society. This mission is especially critical for our students in detention centers, where the stakes are even higher and the barriers more complex. As someone born and raised in Brooklyn to immigrant parents and a proud product of New York City Public Schools, I bring over 40 years of experience at this work as a student, special education teacher, adult education teacher, literacy coach, assistant principal, director of school quality, director of special education, and superintendent. My roles have given me insight into the challenges of teaching and learning across various educational settings. I know firsthand the barriers students face in detention centers, and I believe deeply in their potential. It is my belief that providing high-quality instruction to detained and incarcerated youth is not only a legal obligation, it is a moral one. We are consistently investing time and hard work to improve our services, recognizing that traditional models don't work at detention facilities, so we offer students flexibility to ensure successful outcomes in a variety of settings. D79 operates 2 programs in detention settings: East River Academy in partnership with DOC and Passages Academy in partnership with ACS. These programs provide students with access to rigorous instruction, social emotional supports, and transitioning planning. Our educators include certified teachers, counselors, and support staff to deliver instruction aligned to state standards and tailored to the unique needs of our students. Today, we look forward to providing additional insight about Passages Academy, which we manage in partnership with ACS. Passages Academy operates across 7 sites, serving youth in both secure and non-secure detention and placement settings. Each location is designed to meet the specific needs of its student population, offering full-day instruction from licensed teachers and counselors. Students in non-secure settings attend community-based sites, while those in secure facilities receive on-site education. At Passages, we ensure that students can make academic progress, earn credits, take Regents exams, and maintain continuity in their education. Smaller class sizes allow for personalized instruction that support both academic and social emotional development. Importantly, students remain part of the New York City school system, preserving their right to return to their home school upon release. We also prioritize family engagement through 2 full-time parent coordinators and a family and community engagement liaison. We help facilitate family days and parent-teacher conferences. Since becoming superintendent 3 years ago, I've been intentional about strengthening our educational services and putting the academic and social needs of our students first. Transition planning begins the moment a student arrives at Passages Academy. We have designated, so much so, that we've invested and designated a transition administrator to oversee this work, ensuring that students receive consistent support from social workers and guidance counselors as they prepare to reintegrate into their communities. We've also been intentional over the past 3 years to add 2 additional social workers at Horizon and Crossroads to expand our transition teams and improve continuity of care. Each student completes a personalized blueprint that serves as a roadmap for reentry, helping us identify strengths, potential barriers, and the specific supports needed for life after detention. We are also deepening partnerships with Future Ready and Pathways to provide strategic resources such as financial literacy and certifications that require minimal brick-and-mortar class settings. In addition to transition planning, New York City Public Schools has also made significant strides in strengthening special education services at Passages. We hired an administrator for special education, Chetty, hi Chetty, for secure detention centers to improve coordination across 7 sites. Passages Academy expanded screening and intervention services using the Wyatt 4 and STAR reading data. Special education teachers provide targeted support, including individualized reading Wilson system interventions 2 to 3 times per week. And all special education students receive specially designed instruction through explicit teaching, a multi-tiered system of support, and collaborative planning among special education, ELA, and math teachers. We are also proud to be launching SEED programming in collaboration with New York City Public Schools Special Education Endow Office, which will allow services to take place at secure detention centers on Saturdays. We have completed orientation for prospective teachers and hired related service providers, as well as special education teachers to deliver reading intervention focused on vocational and career topics. To further support academic achievement, we introduced Regent Saturday Test Prep Academy and began offering high school equivalency pathways for eligible students in the evening. We have, in addition to the morning, we are also continuing our partnerships with OSID, which is Office of Student and Youth Development, to provide professional development for detention center educators, including training in de-escalation techniques and specialized instruction for students with disabilities, respectively. Looking ahead, we are committed to fostering intentional collaboration with all stakeholders, our parents, staff, advocates, elected officials, and most importantly, our students, to gain valuable insights and listen to suggestions for improvement. While progress has been made, data from the annual Local Law 21 report underscores that there is still work to be done. This highlights the need to develop robust, comprehensive programming tailored to the distinctive needs of this population. We use these findings on a consistent basis to guide and inform our next steps. In closing, I want to thank you for all of you for your partnership and your unwavering support of our students. Together, we can ensure that education in detention is not a detour, but a bridge to opportunity, dignity, and hope for our students. I will now turn it over to Chris Tricarico, Senior Executive Director of Office of Food and Nutrition Services, to discuss the legislation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Joseph, Chair Stevens, and council members. My name is Chris Tricarico, and I am the Senior Executive Director of the Office of Food and Nutrition Services. We appreciate the Council's leadership in introducing 987 and fully support the spirit of this bill to reduce surplus food in public schools. The proposed pilot program aligns with and complements existing initiatives by the New York City Public Schools Office of Food and Nutrition Services to minimize food waste while ensuring students have access to nutritious meals. We distinguish between food waste, items taken but not consumed, and surplus food, which are meals prepared but not served. When evaluated and deemed safe by the Office of Food and Nutrition Services staff, surplus food can be reoffered, further reducing waste. At OFNS, we proudly implement the USDA's Offer versus Serve provision across all New York City public schools. This program is specifically designed to reduce food waste while maintaining nutritional standards. Under OVS, students are offered all of the required meal components, fruits, vegetables, grains, proteins, and milk, but may decline certain items. To qualify for reimbursement, students must select at least 3 components, which must include a fruit and/or vegetables. This flexibility empowers students to choose foods they are most likely to consume, significantly reducing waste. Salad bars and water are always available and are not part of the above requirements. Our efforts to reduce and minimize waste include student and family education to promote informed food choices, clear cafeteria signage and printed materials guiding meal selection, comprehensive staff training on accurate food ordering and batch cooking to prevent over-prepping and surplus. Additionally, OFNS supports sustainability through share tables and food donation programs to reduce excess waste, taste test and food education programs to increase student engagement, composting and diversion initiatives in partnership with the Office of Energy and Sustainability. Intro 987's emphasis on educational materials aligns with these efforts and will strengthen our shared goals of reducing landfill waste, lowering greenhouse gas emissions, and fostering environmental responsibility. We look forward to collaborating on this pilot and leveraging our experience to ensure its success. Thank you for your continued partnership, and I look forward to your questions.
Okay, let's jump right into it. In 2025, the state controller audited found youth missing between 13 and 73% of scheduled school days due to escort failures. What correction action plan has been implemented to ensure students are consistently escorted to class? And this is a question for ACS. Oh, I'm sorry. I would also like to acknowledge Councilmember Narcisse and Councilmember Lee, who's also joined us. But yes.
So I would just like to note that the Controller's report covered a period of 5 years, from 2018 through the end of 2023. And that included a period during which DOC was administering Horizon and for the year and a half of COVID. So many of the issues that were highlighted during this this audit period, no longer exist. As I mentioned earlier, we have built internal teams to support the education of young people. We now have uniformed staff, the youth development specialists, who are assigned in each facility, who appear in the young people's residential halls. They help the staff on the halls wake up young people, get them ready for school, and bring them to the school classrooms. We have a non-uniform education team that works closely with the Passages staff and leadership to ensure that young people's needs are being met and highlights issues that have come to the attention of facility staff to the school staff. We also have developed a relationship with CUNY so that young people who are at the end of their GED or high school process can begin college classes, and young people who have attained their GED or graduated high school can engage in college education.
So a couple of things. One, we're definitely going to get to CUNY, because when we were there, we spoke to students and they had some concerns around this partnership that is taking place. But you said so I know you said that the report took place between 2018 and 2023, and so things have been updated. So are you saying today that like the youth development specialist is one of the things that you guys brought on to basically help improve the attendance? And so are we saying, so what are the new numbers around ensuring that students are getting and being escorted to class every day? Do you have any numbers around that to show the improvement and to talk about it, other than kind of saying like you guys hired these folks? Because I know when myself and Chair Joseph visited, we did meet some of the youth development specialists, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that there was an improvement. So do you have any quantified information to prove that? And that's for the taking them, and so that's for ACS.
Well, New York City Public Schools takes attendance, so we don't hold the attendance numbers. I can say collectively we have seen.
Even if DOE is taking the attendance, ACS is in charge of getting them there. And so are you saying you're not tracking that?
The number of young people who have been attending school has increased. If you want year by year from 2018, we're going to have to get back to you on that.
Okay, well, I'm a little disappointed that you wouldn't have the numbers, because to say that there has been an increase and then not have the numbers and then say that DOE is the one taking the attendance is problematic, because you're still in charge of tracking and taking them there. And so I do look forward to making sure that we do get those numbers, because I think that is important. In 2023, ACS testified that the school liaison significantly improved engagement and attendance. Given the 2025 controller finding, how is the administration measuring the effectiveness of these liaisons? So you talked about the youth development specialists and all the things, and so do you have like information on how that's being tracked and how that is actually improving the attendance?
Well, we've certainly seen a large increase in graduations and middle school promotions and attainments.
Do you have those numbers?
Yes. In 22-23, we had 30 young people graduate. In 20,
I'm sorry, say that again?
in 22-23, in the school year, we had 30 young people graduate. In 2023 to 2024 school year, there were 38 young people who graduated. In the 2024-2025 school year, there were 50 young people who graduated. And this school year that's in progress, we have had 2 middle school promotions and 6 students pass their GED.
How many students were, like, so let's say in 2025 when you had 2025 and when 50 students graduated, how many students were enrolled at that time?
Well, enrollment is complicated in detention because the numbers are constantly changing. Young people come into detention and they leave detention based on their court case.
And so then how are you then using these numbers to say that there has been an effective, or there's been a change? Because if you're saying that enrollment changes, that means young people are at different points in time. So then how does this, how do these numbers then show that there actually has been an improvement?
Well, 50 is more than 30.
So, well, I know 50 is more than 30, but you just said to me right now, you just said that enrollment changes and it looks different. So you can have 50 because kids came in or young adults came in at a later point in their educational time, which means they graduated. So I'm asking you, how are you using this information to justify that there is an improvement in what the school liaison and saying that this is helping?
The students' academic placement and how they come in is not data that ACS holds. That's New York City Public School.
So again, how are you quantifying and looking at the effectiveness and saying that this is working?
Well, we meet every week with the school, with school leadership, and we plan out how to meet the needs of the current population at that time. And so we are constantly in conversation about how to meet the needs of the young people who are in custody at that time. So if there are issues, they are raised in real time so that they can be addressed.
Okay, so I think because I feel for me, it doesn't seem like there's any things that are putting in place to show that this is actually helping. And obviously, I hope that you guys are meeting weekly. And I know that there is a good relationship and synergy, but I think specifically I was asking around the effectiveness of some of these things that have been put in. But I'll move on to the next question. ACS responded to the state controller audit citing structural disruptions and historical staffing and challenges as a context for missing school days. Can ACS clarify what disruptions remains today and why escort failure continue despite multiple years of reform and hall-based staffing models implementing in 2024?
So as the council is aware, we have more young people than we have bedroom capacity in the facilities. We have gone through an intentional process of ensuring that as many young people as can safely be accommodated are living and sleeping on the residential halls. This allows for young people to attend school and programming together. Safety is our most important priority in the facilities. And there are young people who cannot safely be integrated onto a residential hall because of community conflict or conflict that has occurred within the facilities. So as we try to integrate young people into the residential halls, there are this summer, there was a large uptick in young people being admitted to the facilities. And at that point, it was very difficult to house those young people together because of their histories of community conflict prior to admission. And more often than not, within the first few weeks of admission, it was very difficult for us to integrate the new young people to the facility onto residential halls. And as a result, since we had to keep some of them separate from each other, we used the space that we had in these facilities. Since this summer, we have done a tremendous amount of work to ensure that as many young people are living together on the residential halls so that they can go to school and program together. And as of last week, there were only 11 young people who were sleeping in classrooms, and 7 of those 11 were of non-compulsory age. So although we had a larger number of young people who did not have bedrooms, they live and program and attend school with an assigned hall. And so for the most part, right now, we have resolved most of this issue. It took a period of time during the fall to get to the place where we are now. And we have, each day, young people leave us and new young people come to us from the courts, and that changes the dynamic in the facility. We have to be aware of that and ensure the young people are safe, but we also have been having much more success in integrating young people so that they can live together.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I understand like there's always going to be like these other dynamics, and working with youth, sometimes some just don't mix together and it doesn't make sense. And so it is very difficult, which is why we do need to work on getting these numbers down so this isn't an issue, right? I think that is one of the things that I know I've been talking about, and Councilmember Joseph and even Councilmember Williams, we've been talking a lot about like how do we create a decarceration plan, because the issue is there's just too many young people there that should not be there. And so obviously there's gonna be challenges, but you know, this is the hand we're dealt, and so how do we move forward to make sure that we're keeping everyone safe and they're still getting the opportunity to have access to education? The next question I'm going to ask is, how many secure detention units currently operate school-based housing areas, and what percentage of youth in detention are currently placed in those units?
So school-based housing areas is a DOC designation. It's not an ACS designation. Every youth who's admitted to detention facilities administered by ACS is enrolled in school if they're eligible.
How does ACS coordinate with DOE when school schedules, suspension, or emergencies affect attendance?
We're in conversation every day with the school leadership. So the school liaisons communicate with school leadership. Facility leadership communicates, the education associates communicate. The communication is constant and daily.
So this kind of goes back to the first question. The controller order found that ACS does not consistently document or report incidents where youth were not escorted to school. What internal control now exists to ensure that ACS is accurately tracking escort failures?
The education associate team maintains data.
So they're maintaining the data of like when young people are going to being escorted to school or when they're not, so you guys are tracking that?
Yes.
But why, when I asked before, you said that you guys you weren't tracking that?
We don't track attendance.
Yeah, but I didn't ask about attendance. I was asking about like the escorts. So if you're tracking that, what are the numbers? Has it improved? Like, that was the first question I asked.
So we were not tracking it in 2018?
No, I'm saying, well, what is it now?
The overall, in this school year, about 17% of of the days students were not brought to school. Some students were not brought to school.
So currently, we're about 17% of where young people who might not attend school.
Not currently, since September.
Since September.
So that's the entire time.
I know, and it's November.
Yeah.
In 2023, Gotham's investigation followed up in a 2025 reported classroom repurposed and sleeping quarters. How frequently have classrooms been used for housing since 2024? How many school days have been disrupted or canceled due to classrooms being used for sleeping quarters?
So I don't have that data. We have many students who, as I was explaining, we had many students sleeping in classrooms over the summer. And that number has gone down steadily since that time until now we have one classroom in each facility that is currently being used for that purpose.
So now you have one, and I want to go for record saying this isn't a pop quiz, so it's not as if ACS didn't have these questions beforehand. So I just like to make sure we have that basis, because to not have the data means that you just don't want to share because you had the questions. And to me, that's not really acceptable. And so if you're saying that it was happening in the summer, those numbers are important for us to know so that we can keep track to be able to monitor it. And so if you guys don't have the numbers, and I know you have a team right there, you guys should be working on getting the numbers, because we actually sent these questions before today's hearing. And it's important for us to have it because that's what we do as oversight. And so I'll come back to this question, because like that to me is just not okay. You just said that it was happening in the summer, it's not happening now. So what was the difference between then and now? And especially if you're saying that it's progress.
So the difference between then and now is that we have some young people have been released from the facility. We have been working very closely with the court system to ensure that young people who the courts believe can be released are released.
But that's not the question. The question I'm asking is around the numbers, and that's what is important. And so I understand all the other factors and variables that go into that, and that's not why I'm asking that question, because I understand that. But the numbers is what we need to see so that we can keep track to say, like, oh, if this was happening, right? If in the summer there was 3 classrooms and that was the frequency, that's very different to now telling me anecdotes about something that, like, I understand is an issue. So again, I really would like to know, like, what those numbers was. How many classrooms was being used? What's the difference now, like, in the numbers? So according to October 8th, a letter published by the Legal Aid Society, nearly 100 youth in secure detention lack housing placements. How many youth in Horizon and Crossword currently lack housing placements, and how long do youth typically remain without placements?
On November 9th, which was the last date that we publicly reported, there were 16 youth without a housing placement due to safety concerns. 11 of that 16 were in classrooms. It's very unusual for a young person to be in a classroom for an extended period of time, because we are doing daily assessments about whether or not they can be integrated onto our hall, or if they can be transferred between the buildings so that we can identify a safe residential hall placement.
Because youth attending with their housing cohort, how has the lack of stable housing affected the ability to consistently have educational instruction?
So if young people are sleeping in alternative, if young people are sleeping outside of a bedroom, but they are on a residential hall, they attend school with that hall. And almost all the young people who we have who are not sleeping in bedrooms are on residential halls and programming and attending school with that hall.
So they would still go, okay.
Right.
Do youth attending school with the same cohort that they're housing with, even when their learning levels and education needs differ? If so, is this the most effective approach for grouping classes and delivering instruction?
That's a New York City Public Schools question.
Are you guys the ones that, is that DOE's policy to have them do with the sleeping, with their halls, or is that a ACS?
No, we do not assign the whole.
Right, so then that's an ACS question.
We, the young people live on halls where they can be safe. Because safety is an extremely important issue in these settings, we assign housing according to where the young people will be safe.
So that's a no, because we all know that it's not effective to have people at different levels to all be there with the guise of being safe. So, I think that it is okay to say no and saying we have to prioritize safety, but we also need to be thinking about other things, because that's not helpful sometimes if you have young people at all these different levels.
Well, one of the things that we have been able to work with Passages really effectively is to create a split schedule for the GED students. So because there are GED students on almost every residential hall, the young people who are attending high school go in the morning for a full high school day, and the GED program now runs in the afternoon from 3 to 6. And so young people who are not attending high school will not travel with the high school students to those classrooms. It also allows us to accommodate different groups of young people at different times during the day. And that collaboration has been critically important in delivering education to as many students as possible.
Yeah, listen, I was in youth development for 20 years. It's really hard to have students who might be reading on a 3rd grade level and another young person who has a 10th grade level to give them that attention that they need. And so obviously this is again an issue that we do need to evaluate, right? I think that yes, we want to make sure folks are safety is a priority, but we also want to make sure that they're getting the things that they need. And that's really what this question is about, of this is a place we need to look under the hood and say, how can we change and address this? Because this does become an issue, I believe.
I don't mean to interrupt, but one of the reasons why we doubled down on our commitment to tutoring is precisely for this reason. This is a dynamic that has existed in detention for as long as detention has been running, as far as I know, at least in my 34 years.
Just so you know, I'm not the right council member to say this is something that has always happened. Just because it always exists doesn't mean we should continue to do it.
No, I agree with
that. That's never an answer for me.
I agree with that. That is why we have committed to a large tutoring budget for both facilities so that young people can obtain additional academic support outside of the school setting. And so young people obtain that tutoring sometimes on their halls, or sometimes pushed into the classrooms before and after school.
No, I think tutoring is absolutely important and essential. And when we were there, we did, some of the young people did talk about the additional tutoring services. That was very helpful, but it's still not the same as instructional time. And so we all know that as well. Legal aid states that when one youth faces disciplinary action, the entire cohort loses access to classroom instruction for the day. Is this accurate? And if so, how does ACS justify denying education to youth who were not involved in an incident?
That is not correct. There may be a time when there is an incident on a hall when we cannot safely move that hall to class, but it is very unusual for that to happen. And we make every effort that we can to allow young people who are not involved to attend school and programming.
So that's not a regular practice, but it might have happened a few times. Legal aid reports that ACS is relying on the expansion of Horizon, which is currently more than 4 years away from completion. What interim alternatives for ACS to consider reducing overcrowding and restore education instruction now?
We're working with DDC to build additional temporary housing at the Crossroads site, which is on a much quicker timeline, which should be an 18-month timeline. So that will be quicker, and we are working very closely with OCA and the youth parts to ensure that case processing is happening as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we also need to be pushing back on the courts, because even that's some of what I'm hearing as well, that there's an extensive wait time for young people to be seen in the courts, and so that's also adding to the overcrowdedness. And so that is definitely something I know myself and colleagues are looking into and working with our state partners and colleagues, because I think it was like on average we're up to like 100 days folks are waiting to be seen, and that is unacceptable. Does ACS track the number of instruction days disrupted by emergencies like lockdowns? If so, what were the total for fiscal 2024 and fiscal 2025?
We don't track that, but we almost never lock down a facility. So ordinarily, if there's an incident involving one hall, it will only affect that hall, and the rest of the facility functions as regular.
Both the Monitor 6 and 7 report indicates that classroom predictability improves safety and reduces assaults. Given this, why has ACS not used the Monitor's framework to monitor educational access or disruptions?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
I'm assuming that this is in the Monitor's report, the 6 and 7 report, indicating that classroom predictability improves safety and reproduces assaults. Given this, why haven't you used like the Monitor's framework to help with some of the things that they said? So basically saying like the Monitor gave you guys, the report gave you guys, I guess, some things to implement, and you guys didn't implement it.
Education was not one of the factors that the Monitor had oversight of, and I apologize, but I'm not clear to what you're referring.
Okay, I'll get back to you on that one. I have some questions around compliance, but I know my colleague, Councilmember Williams, will go into some more detail. But how does ACS monitor and report its own performance metrics related to education, like escorting, completion rate, average time to school placements, missed school days due to ACS operations? Like, how do you guys monitor that?
Our education associate team monitors that.
So they're the ones who are tracking all of that. How many people are on that team?
Two to three.
At each facility?
At each facility.
According to Local 21 report, only 34 youth were enrolled in college classwork in 2023 to 2024, while 87% were college age. What are the primary boundaries preventing enrollment?
Well, not every student wants to enroll in college. That's why we also have vocational programming. So we discuss the options for students who have graduated, but not every student is interested.
My council member Dinowitz will have more questions around some of these CUNY questions, but one of the things that when we were there that was mentioned from the young people was that, yes, that there were options, but they were taking the freshman the freshman orientation over and over again, and it was very limited. So, and I guess you can tell me now, but also I'm sure they'll go in detail, but like what are we really offering the young people when it comes to the college courses? I know we have the partnership with Hostos, and what was the other one? I know it's CUNY, but I know Hostos is one of the schools. But what are the things that are being, and BMCC.
BMCC.
What are they being offered as far as like class? I know you said like anthropology, but when we were there and we were talking to the young people, they were like, they're not being offered any of those things.
Well, the classes that we're only in our third semester of college. So we started fall of 24, so fall of 24, spring of 25, and now this semester.
Yeah, but when we were there, when did we go there? It was like in the June, right?
Yeah.
It was like in June. Literally, the young man said he had then been there for a year, and he took the freshman orientation twice. And he said that he was not being offered anything else. And then it was like, well, he won't be here for much longer and he'll be able to get classes once he leaves. So like, how are they getting access to this stuff? And like, and I know it's like anthropology, some other stuff, is that limited on like what facility they're in, or what are the barriers for them not being offered more things, especially when we have a situation where remote learning is a real thing?
Hostos and BMCC offer different classes, so there are different classes offered in each facility. Sometimes youth move back and forth between the facilities, and young people, not all young people can attend class together. So there might,
Are these classes in person?
yes,
Okay.
they are in person. The professors come.
Is there a reason why we're not offering some remote options as well?
The young people have asked for in-person classes. We did originally start with a remote class, and the young people indicated that they preferred in-person instruction, and so we have been pursuing that.
Yeah, I think that we should be at a place where they should have options, because even when you're in school now, in college, classes are hybrid, and there's both, and I think that like, if we have options to have more things offered, then that makes more sense. And so I would love for us to start thinking about what are some remote options. So I'm gonna go to close the homes. I have a couple more questions, but I'll pass it off to Councilmember Joseph, and then we'll come back to me. But how does ACS ensure that close to home facilities provide safe, clean, and conductive space for studying and homework?
So the close-to-home sites are home-like settings, and so there are living rooms. The young people have bedrooms with desks. There's community space where they can do homework, and both Belmont and Bronx Hope have plenty of space for young people to study and engage in homework.
Are there designated study areas, technology, access to like Wi-Fi and quiet hours for schoolwork?
In the houses?
In the close to home facilities?
Yeah, as far as I know, yes.
Is that part of like the requirement from like in the contract, or is that just something that the providers create themselves?
The providers are very committed to the young people's education and are very engaged in supporting the young people in their academic pursuits. And so they are supportive.
No, but I know, I'm just asking, is it part of the contract, or is that for the providers to do? Because this isn't a question around whether they're committed or not. This is just asking, because one of my things is always, especially around contracting, it's a reflective of our goals. And so sometimes I just want to make sure that we're putting them in to make sure that this is seen as a priority. And not saying that the providers aren't doing it. I'm just asking, when we were thinking about, because this was a RFP that just came out a couple of years ago, was this something that we put in because that shows where our priorities are?
It is our expectation that the providers will support education. I would have to get back to you exactly what the language is in the contract.
How does ACS coordinate with DOE to ensure every youth in close to homes is promptly enrolled in appropriate programs upon placement?
Once the young person is in placement, those names are provided to passages, and enrollment occurs.
How long does that usually take on average?
A day or two.
How does ACS ensure, what is the average number of days between placements, and you said is a day or two? How does ACS measure success for close to home participants? And are there metrics consistent across providers? So how are you measuring like the success of like the educational outcomes? Like, do you guys have anything that like you're measuring to like see, like, are you looking at attendance, academics, like graduation rates? Like, what are you using to measure the success of those providers?
Attendance is not really an option for close to home. They come, if they're compulsory school age, they're brought from their sites to the school, and for limited secure, they have school on site.
All right, I have a number of questions, but I'll pass it off to Councilmember Joseph, and then I'll come back with some other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Stevens. Advocates testified that instruction relied heavily on paper packets rather than live instruction by certified teachers. What portion of classes at Horizon and Crossroad currently rely on packet-based work?
We don't provide packets for instruction in lieu of instruction.
It's live instruction?
It's live
We saw
instruction in
pictures
person.
in the article that stated, that showed that the students were given packets.
The packets that are given to the students are days that the students aren't brought to the classes, so we don't want any type of interruption in instruction. So our teachers create those packets and provide it to them so that they can complete it in their halls, and then their tutors support them with that.
With that, okay, great, thank you. So how many vacancies you currently exist for certified teachers in special education at each site?
So currently, just give me 1 second. Currently, there are 4 vacancies across Horizon and Crossroads. So we have 3 at Crossroads, which include 1 reading specialist and 2 special education teacher, and at Horizon, 1 special education, 1 reading specialist.
And how long those vacancies remained unfilled?
Some of these vacancies just came about because we've had people that retired, but the goal is always to actively work with teaching hierarchy that we can find great talent to be onboarded in those spaces.
So you're currently actively recruiting right
Always
now?
actively recruiting. Anybody here with a license, we're actively recruiting.
And that's a shortage area in special education.
Absolutely.
Is there any incentive to bring in teachers with those special licensing, or encourage colleagues to maybe change their licensing and come into special education?
We've done a combination of both. So for the teachers who have demonstrated interest of probably wanting to go and get another certification, we definitely encourage and have those conversations. We also have targeted fairs so people can learn more about our district and learn about what we offer. And then we also have, like I said, been in conversation with HRTQ. We have connected with colleges so that we can get students coming right out of college to support our needs. And so that's been the work. And then one of the greatest incentives that we provide is that you change your life the minute you walk into that setting and support students on a daily basis.
But there's also students with special needs are not receiving their legally mandated services. How are you helping with that?
So once students are onboarded into Passages, what we do is we provide a special education plan. We're proud to report that over the past 3 years, we have been intentional in ensuring that the students complete 100%, that our teachers complete 100% of the plans. Okay. We have 88% that are done within the first 30 days, and there's maybe 13 to 17% that take a little bit longer. But that happens because we want our parents to be a part of it. So that delay of more than 30 days, that's why it's there. In addition to that, what we've done and been intentional with is that we hired a special education administrator solely for Passages. The role of that person is to review all the IEP mandates, work with programming to ensure that they're happening, and if there's a need for related services by way of RSA, she's always engaging with that department. In addition, what we've done through the partnership of Dial, that we're very proud of, that we'll be launching officially in December, but we've already started the orientation process, is that we are offering the SEED program that's offered citywide. We are creating those spaces in the detention center. So on Saturdays, students will be able to have an opportunity to do service recovery in speech, counseling, OT when necessary, as well as PT, as well as providing special education resources around reading recoveries as well. And that reading piece will be offered not only to students with IEPs, but also to any student that presents a reading delay.
Are you currently doing dyslexia screening as well?
Absolutely. I knew you was going to ask that question because you always do. So we started it 2 years ago. We're proud to report not only that we don't call it a pilot anymore.
Right.
It is what the work that we do, and that's expanded across all of our sites, all 7 sites. The teachers are trained. We are administering the Wyatt screener, as well as using our STARS in-house screener to identify the students and provide them with strategic research-based intervention. In addition to that, like I said, we have really been intentional of looking at the curriculum and you use, and we've just hearing from the students, that's one of the things that we want to do. Some of the students said, like, some of the text that you're giving us is boring. Miss, what can you do? And so what we've done and been intentional about is implementing Black Studies curriculum, because as many people see when they look at the data, the majority of our students are Black and brown
Yes, they
children.
are. Yes,
And
they
so
are.
what we did is not only about academic recovery, but also identity recovery, letting them see greatness so that they can emulate it. And from the feedback that we've gotten from the students, they've been really excited about that work.
And how are families engaged in this conversation? For example, you talked about earlier about reevaluation of IEP services. How are families engaged in that conversation?
So just to clarify, so what we do is the special education plan. And so every student that comes in, there's a conversation that happens with their families around the special education program that they have on their IEP. And so with the plan, what we talk about, we do an assessment of the present level of performance of the students, talk about supports that we can give in, not only to the students, but we also have found and been really excited about how do we make our parents, some of our parents have revealed their own literacy challenges. So we are also helping them with like adult education classes that we refer them to outside in the community, as well as just parents as partners so that they can strengthen that work as well. But we are intentional on having ongoing conversations with our parents throughout the time that our students are in the Passages Academy.
Is there an in-house SBST team that does this evaluation? How is it done for young people in
So
custody?
the way the evaluation process happens is that it is referred out. So our students do the reevaluation process, and then we do the SBST. There are some that are done on like I said, the SBST and the reeval. It's done, but it's not done in-house. It's done out externally.
It's done externally?
Externally, yeah.
Okay. What steps have New York City Public Schools taken to replace broken classroom technology reported in 2023, such as non-functional smart boards?
So what we do is we've definitely been intentional about improving the facilities with regards to smart boards and so forth. Sometimes there's smart boards that are out of function because they were just damaged over time, but that has been our intention to make sure that we upgrade the technology as well as providing curriculum. So we've invested in purchasing new books, more interest rate books so that we can replenish our libraries. So that is something that we're committed to and continue to be committed to on an ongoing basis.
And when was the last time the technology was upgraded at these facilities?
I want to say we do a little bit each year. So
And what was done this year?
I will ask the principal. I'm sorry. Yeah, do you mind?
Sir, please come to
Oh, you
the...
got to come to the front. Sorry, Richard.
Thank you.
Afternoon. We have Promethean boards that are in our classrooms. Out of 10 classrooms, we have 9 Promethean boards. We currently have 1 that's out of service, and we are looking to replenish that one. But all of our classrooms, minus that 1, have Promethean boards.
And the computers?
Yes, we have Chromebooks.
Uh-huh.
So we have over 70 Chromebooks that students have access to and utilize in the classroom. That is a teacher's tool, so they use it based on what the curriculum needs, as well as some of our teachers and students may need different courses, so they use the Chromebooks for the Edmentum and Apex program.
And all of the Chromebooks are currently working? None is outdated, none is broken, they're all working? All 70 of them?
So, do you mind if I just jump in on
Yeah.
that? So we actually have somebody that's their job, is to definitely look at the technology and make sure that it stays current. And if there's something wrong with it, that they let us know so that we can expedite and triage that. Thank you.
Advocates for Children found that over half of the youth at Passages entered reading below the 5% percentile. I know you talked about reading intervention, tutoring. How do you help those students up with the skills when they first come in? Is there an assessment taking? What are we doing with them?
So we do a formal assessment through STAR, but because the average stay of our students is probably 38 days for many of our students, in addition to doing the STAR formal assessment, we also do in-class assessments, which consists of teacher observations, informal assessments, and classroom level assessment, as well as conversations in the review of their IEP with their prevalent level of performance. Once we gauge an idea of where these students are performing at, that's one of the things that our teachers have really invested in creating SDI, and we train them in a variety of different practices. So we're also doing MTSS, just to ensure that we understand that we have a wide range of learners in front of us so that we can scaffold and provide instruction accordingly.
Do you look back at their home schools and see what they were
Absolutely.
doing?
That's
And
one
you
of the things
review-
that we do from the very beginning.
Just checking.
Yeah, we do. We definitely review their transcripts and call out to their home schools to find out, because I think that's the best source as well. And then we also speak to the students. Students are very transparent of what they can and cannot do. And when we do our blueprint with them, they let us know what their strengths are and what are some things that they would want support in. So we do a combination of them.
And how do you measure growth for students who are enrolled only for a short time? And where does that growth data publish? Where does that data live?
So we have two pieces. So we have our own internal where we look at different milestones like promotion, credit recovery, credit accumulation, regions. And not only do we look at it as a whole, we look at it as our subgroups. And then we also look at the pass rate as well as, we look at the pass rate as well. Where it lives, we have our own internal monitoring that we do. Yeah, we have our own internal monitoring that we do. Okay.
I'd like to recognize Councilmember Shaker, Sanchez, and Gutierrez.
Well, we had Councilmember Denton was a minute, but they've already left. So we'll go to Councilmember Williams for her questions.
Thank you. I'm going to ask questions from Councilmember Narcisse first. She had to go, but she wanted to say hello to Glenda. She wanted to make sure we said hello to you, her friend. She appreciates all the work that you do. And the question I have is, does ACS track whether youth who miss school while in custody and therefore reoffend at higher rates? If not, why is that data not being monitored?
We do not track that. That would be very difficult. We don't have access to that information. The reoffense rates, many of the young people are over 18 when they leave us. They don't come back to us. We don't have access to that information.
Okay, and her other question was, has ACS conducted any internal performance reviews or disciplinary actions related to escort failures in the past 2 years? If yes, how many staff were disciplined?
We don't have the same escort issues as there are in the adult system. We haven't seen a need for discipline because our education, the YDS who are serving those roles are every day trying to get young people to school. The challenge that we're having right now is census and availability of classrooms. It's not because of staff failure.
Thank you. Okay. Now I have a few questions specifically around compliance. In 2023, the administration testified that all youth of compulsory school age are required to go to school. How is compliance enforced when youth are not escorted or classes are canceled?
So we had many fewer young people in 2023. Our census was not at the current state that it is. So every day we are doing everything that we can. Our staff is encouraging every young person to go to school as long as we have space to bring them to school. Currently, as in this week, every classroom but one in each facility is available for classes, and so every young person who is eligible for school and is compulsory school age is being brought to school unless they refuse, and even when they refuse, additional efforts are made by staff to encourage them to attend. Sometimes we will communicate with their counsel or their parent to help encourage the young person to attend. Often the young people who struggle the most are students who have struggled with attendance prior to their admission with us, and it takes some time to get them in a place where they are attending every day.
I know the chair earlier had a whole slew of questions around or comments around the lack of data, but you said something. You said there were 11 students that were not in school. What was this? This is from last week. When was that? And then like 7,
There were
3 that were not.
There were 11 students who were sleeping in classrooms.
Oh, sleeping. Okay, this is what. So do you have the data of, because I know the data that we've been provided, which I think how they quantified it is interesting, but it's alarming to see that nearly half of the students are not actually attending class regularly. So do you have current data right now? Like last week, are you able to share out of all the students who are of compulsory school age, how many actually went to class and how many did not go to class?
Well, attendance is much higher than 50%.
Okay.
Do you have the attendance numbers?
Same.
See, I think we hear things from workers. Like I've heard a ton of complaints from workers in the facility around this specific issue when students don't want to go to school, this idea of like whether or not they're truly compelled to go to school, and the accountability around that seems to be a little gray. And a lot of the data that I believe the chair was requesting at least helps us to understand what's real and what's not real. Because it's hard, it's just like all anecdotal information with no clear numbers around school attendance. Okay, perhaps we can get it by the end of the hearing. The next question I have is, ACS's response to the state comptroller's audit relies heavily on improved safety indicators. How does ACS reconcile safety improvements with the continuing failures in educational access identified in the audit and in DOE's own Local Law 21 reporting?
So safety is a minimum requirement for before we can get to programming or school. The Nunez Monitor noted that the rates of youth-on-youth assaults were declined by 34% from the time they started monitoring to the current time. Rates of youth-on-staff assault had declined by 58%. So the safer the building is, the easier it is to move young people to their classes and to programming.
Yeah, I think the question though is like, how did you do that? So how do you reconcile that? How do you balance safety and attendance, and like how do you reconcile all of that? Because by way of this question, by way of the reports and the data, one would make an assumption that safety has become a part of a variable that gets taken into consideration and or impacts educational access within the facilities, according to the audit in DOE's Local Law 21 reporting. So how are you actually reconciling that?
So as the buildings have gotten safer, we have been able to produce more young people to school.
How have you made the buildings safer?
There's been a number of steps that we have taken. We have improved and expanded the frequency and the number of searches that are done on the halls of the young people. We have seen a very significant drop in contraband in the facilities. We have implemented a robust behavior system where young people are able to respond to issues that they might have or conflict that they might have in a restorative manner. We have implemented a type of commissary system so that at different levels, young people can earn different items. They get better snacks when their behavior is better. They get better personal toiletry items and certain privileges like movie nights and activities that motivate the young people to behave. We have rolled out a CBT program called Power Source, where young people are working with their staff and facility leadership in exploring past traumas and triggers that affect their behavior and ways to manage those issues so that they don't have as many outward behavioral issues and they can talk through their conflicts.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. No, that was really helpful and helpful to know because this, like, we don't work in the facilities, and so we want to understand how do you reconcile this. Okay, I have 2 more questions. The other question is, would ACS commit to sharing monthly indicators that link ACS operations, escort failures, staff absenteeism, lock-ins to school attendance and instructional hours, rather than relying on DOE-only reporting? So would ACS commit to also providing data that supports all of the things?
We can certainly explore that.
Okay, and then do you have the other answer for attendance?
I'm still looking for it.
Okay. The last question that I have, and this is just based off of knowing people who have worked in the facility, that there seems to be sometimes discrepancy between the agencies who are operating in the facility that cause certain operational hiccups. And so I just wanted to understand, in the facilities themselves, how do the agencies interact? I wish I should have called her before this hearing, but she was explaining some very weird thing about how the teachers are like locked in the rooms, and then like one of the workers from ACS has to do something, and it just seemed like some operational challenges between ACS and the individuals who are coming into the building to provide instruction to the students from DOE. So if you could just share a little bit about how both agencies interact to support the students and to minimize any operational hiccups.
One of the reasons why we have weekly meetings is to identify issues that are happening in real time. One of the big reasons why we have so many ACS staff dedicated to supporting the school program is so that we can have both uniformed and non-uniformed staff throughout the building, ensuring that classes are happening the way they're supposed to and that teachers are allowed the movement that they need to teach and to get from place to place. I think that this was more of an issue that we were having in the past. I'm not going to say there's never an issue where a teacher can't get to where they want to go to at the very moment that they want to go, but the communication has gotten much better, and we have uniformed staff that are working in the corridors where the classrooms are, and our uniformed staff is present on the school floor, so that if a teacher needs something, they have access to ACS staff almost all of the time to ensure that there are fewer of those incidents.
I just also wanted to just share the attendance rate for Crossroads and Horizon. The average total is 80%.
And then the 20%, do we know what's
So the 20% is coded as a release code, and when we code a release code, that means that the students aren't coming to school because of a host agency concern or matter.
So what could that be? ACS, right? That would be ACS. So what would that be?
No, court attendance is coded separately.
Okay, so there are a number of reasons why young people might go to school that we're sending anywhere between 10 and 40 young people to court every day. They might have counsel visits, they have evaluations for court, they might be sick. So they,
Does that get communicated, though?
I was going to
within the
clarify, so what will
facility?
happen is if they are sick, like we have specific absent codes if somebody is sick, if somebody is going to court.
Okay.
So
So you get details.
So let me give a little bit of, I'll just give more context. So for the release code of Code 90, it's if it's like, we call it like if it's a whole site facilities issue. So let's say, for example, there's flooding, or if there's a situation that a classroom isn't available, or if students aren't brought, like that's what the code, release Code 90 is. But once again, we do connect. I think that was the question that you asked. Do we connect with ACS in the morning? We do connect with ACS in the morning so that we can gauge what's happening in the facility. We do that every morning.
Okay, yeah. I think when I learned about this, because I learned about this from, again, people that work there, I think it's a little crazy that there isn't 100% attendance when it can be, and I know there are different things that do happen. Of course, if they have a court case or they need to prep or something like that, then I understand why they can't be in school, and I guess you can't physically drag them into the classroom, but it's right there. They don't have to like travel to go to school, so I think the numbers require all of us to like think about how we can improve that, especially when some of the hurdles are operational and not even the students' fault. I think that's just like absolutely unacceptable. But thank you so much for your answers.
I just had a question to follow up. I know Councilmember Williams, she was just asking about the coalition between keeping track of folks with the recidivism and things like that. And you said that you guys don't keep track of that. But does ACS have transitional specialists at the facilities, all of the secure detention centers?
for school,
Yeah, no, just transitional specialists.
we have case managers who sometimes work on transition.
So you guys don't have transitional specialists who help students plan for their transition and provide support following their release for up to 6 months?
That's a DOE function.
That's a DOE function. So you guys have transitional specialists.
So as I shared in the opening testimony, so we do have we also were intentional to hire an administrator who supervises transition. And then we're also building out that team. So we've hired 2 additional social workers for Horizon and 2 additional social workers for Crossroads so that we can emphasize and really dig in deep with regards to that piece.
And so your transition is more around like the educational piece. So
It's looping them back, yeah.
Yeah.
Our transition is
So
looping
it's
them
like
into
education.
getting them back into that educational piece.
So ACS doesn't have something equivalent on the other side to help with transition that follows up and to make sure they're doing their services and supports?
So our young people, when they are released, for the most part, have open court cases and are represented by counsel, and their counsel are doing that planning for them with the court. So it depends on what the court might order or what is required as a condition of release.
That's interesting. I would have thought that like ACS would have had an equivalent to a transition specialist to kind of like help with those adjustments in the same way like they're trying to help with educational adjustments of like saying like, okay, you're being released, you might still have court, but how are we going to continue the longevity of like making sure that like whether you're going to your court cases, giving parents supports, like and trying to holistically support the young person. But okay, you said you had case managers though.
We have case managers, and we've just onboarded an assistant commissioner for transition, and so we are looking to build out.
Is that a
those
new
services.
is that a new role or?
It's a new role.
Oh, and what is that as the transition? What would that job description entitle?
That person is going to support the continuum, so NSD, close to home, and secure for young people who are going back into the community to support our provider agencies in the transition out of close to home and NSD, and for the young people where it's appropriate leaving secure detention.
Okay, so you guys have seen that there is a need to have some follow-up and connections with the young people after they leave out of the facility. Okay. Well, I wish you would have just started there because I think that would have just, I think it is important. Like the follow-up is necessary as well. Okay, great. I'm going to go back to some of the questions around like the making sure that young people have opportunities to have pathways to whether it's vocational. What supports are provided to students to complete high school who automatically offered pathways to college or vocational? So what does that look like, a young person? How do we encourage them? Because at that point, they're not school age, so you can't force them. So, but what is the encouragement to get young people to either want to go to college or have vocational trainings?
So once a young person, some of our young people start college classes while they're still finishing their high school or GED course of study. And those referrals are usually made in collaboration with our partners at Passages for young people who indicate an interest in starting that earlier or demonstrate a particular aptitude where the Passages leadership believe that they would be well suited for a college class. And so we coordinate with Passages to identify those students. Young people, once they graduate, there are conversations that happen about what the young people might be interested in after their graduation. And so some young people indicate that they want to go to college. We have some young people who've said that they did not want to go to college and then changed their minds. And so the options are always being presented to the young people, even if they initially decline. They are aware that they can change their mind and ask to enroll. Of course, you know, it's a college enrollment schedule, so you can't start in the middle of the semester.
But what encouragements are given to young people, right? Like, I think that, like, yes, it's great that it's there to be offered. Although, like I said, from some of the conversations we had with the young people, it didn't, they didn't feel like it was as fruitful as they would have hoped. But how do we encourage them, right? Like, we have young people who obviously have had some trauma and some challenges in their lives and now might not see that this is even a real option. What encouragements are we trying to get them to motivate them to even get to a place to even see college as an option?
So we've seen one of the best motivators is seeing their peers attending college and coming back to the hall and talking about that experience. And often young people are motivated by their peers. And we've seen many young people decide to request college access because of conversations that they've had with their peers. Our staff is constantly talking to the young people about opportunities that open to them because they are in college. One of the great things about our relationship with Hostos and BMCC is if they are enrolled while they're in the facility and they're released, they can walk out of our building and go to the college location and continue classes there.
Well, that leads me to my next question. How are college credits earned through CUNY partnerships recorded and transferred at release? Like, how do we keep track of that, and how do we ensure that they are able to use those credits?
So we have an assistant commissioner, and that is one of her primary roles is the coordination with the CUNY schools, and she collects she tracks those credits and is in constant conversation with the CUNY leadership so that young people who are released can pursue enrollment once they're in the community. And she also has those conversations with OCFS for the young people who are sentenced so that they can pursue ongoing college once they're starting their sentence. She has been able to work with CUNY professors when young people are sentenced in the middle of a college class so that the young people can complete that class and obtain those credits remotely while they're serving their sentence. And then they switch over to the SUNY program or the community college program that the upstate facilities are associated with.
Has ACS evaluated the outcomes of college-level participation, such as post-release participation in credit transfer or employment?
Because we're at the very beginning of the process, we have not evaluated it, but we are in conversations with CUNY about doing that.
Yeah, I just want to say, definitely, even though we're in the beginning, I think we should start how we want to finish. And so we should start making sure that that is a active practice, because, you know, I think that even when we're talking about even having peer-to-peer conversations, I think it's important for us to also let them know, like, young people who started these college courses, this is what's happened. And I think that that also could help with some of that as well. ACS has testified that it offers vocational training in real estate, construction, engineering, and more. How many youth participated in each program last year, and how many completed certification?
We've had 406 completions and 291 certifications. We've had 17 programs, and 24 young people participated in each program.
And I know when we went to visit, you guys were saying that you were looking to get some new things to offer young people. Have you guys finalized that list? I know that there were some RFPs out around some of the stuff that the young people wanted to see brought in. Has that been finalized?
So our partners, Children's Village and Bard Prison Initiative, they contract for those services, and we have seen a number of new programs come on over the last year and a half. The most popular are flagging and OSHA. Electrical has been very popular. Scaffolding, barbering, spackling, taping and painting is a very popular class. How does ACS determine whether a youth is placed in vocational track or college level program? Is that just all voluntary from the young people? Yeah, you can do both. A young person can do both. If they indicate an inclination, some choose one or the other. Councilmember Sanchez has a question. I'll pass it to her.
Thank you, chairs, and thank you for organizing this hearing on this important topic. I just had a follow-up question on something that was mentioned earlier in connection with overcrowding at our facilities at Horizon and Crossroads. We hear you enumerating the challenges relating to having older students in detention, and earlier I believe that you mentioned, ACS mentioned and identified that there are youth sleeping in classrooms and in the common areas. So can you tell us more about these conditions? Can you describe what are they sleeping on? What is oversight looking like? And if residents are sleeping in classrooms, doesn't that lead to some of the, it's kind of circular, isn't that leading to some of the challenges that you're talking about with being unable to engage the students in some of the goals that you've mentioned today? Thank you.
Well, it's certainly our preference that we have as few young people in custody as possible. As you're aware, we don't have control of that number. And part of the work that we're doing every day is ensuring that the young people who can be safely integrated onto residential halls are integrated into those halls. So each facility has 10 halls, and each of those halls has a number of bedrooms, anywhere from, let's say, 8 to 16. When we go over that number of whatever that number is, we have young people sleeping in what we refer to as boats. Their formal name is a Barker bunk. They are plastic, like cots that hold a mattress and bedding, and young people receive a full set of bedding and sleep in those. Originally, when this first started, a year and a half ago, the young people were sleeping in classrooms off of the halls, not in the common areas of the halls. The young people asked if they could sleep on the halls because they wanted to be near the other young people with whom they were programming with. It allowed them access to steady staff with whom they had relationships with. and it just improved their everyday experience. And so because we're always talking to our young people, even though this is not an ideal situation, we're every day trying to determine how we can do the best that we can given the circumstances. So the young people who are sleeping on the halls in those common areas take showers on the halls, they eat with the other young people, and they program and go to school with those young people. When the number really ticked up over the summer, and because of the level of conflict in the communities that the young people were coming into the facilities with, we had to separate many of them from each other, and they were not in a position. Many of the young people come in and they ask not to be placed on halls because they have concerns about their safety because of prior relationships with other young people we have in custody from the community. And so sometimes it just takes a matter of time for them to get used to the environment, and not that anyone gets used to this environment, but they get a little bit more comfortable. They start seeing that there are staff who care about them, who are interested in their well-being, and through a number of conversations and introductions to different groups of young people, we can usually find a hall placement for most young people, which is why last week we were down to only 11 young people between the facilities who were left in classrooms and who were there for safety reasons because we could not safely have them on a residential hall. So it's obviously not ideal. We don't think it's ideal either. And that's part of why we have been in consistent conversations with the courts, with the youth part judges, to ensure that cases are being adjourned in a timely way, that young people, we're speaking to young people's counsel to ensure that counsel is in contact with the young people so that the pace of the case is happening.
Sorry, just because I'm out of time.
Sure.
I guess just want to understand, in the context of you not being able to control the numbers that are coming to you, have you had conversations with the mayor's office elsewhere? And I would never be the one that's advocating for more beds to lock up our youth, but to make sure that they're living in humane conditions. Have there been conversations with the mayor's office, with your vertical?
We are.
Thank you, chairs, for the time.
We're speaking consistently with the administration, with MOCJ, that is with DDC. We are building a facility in the Bronx that is geared toward, it's a trauma-focused building that will have adequate space that we are lacking now. These facilities were built 20 years ago for a much younger population of young people who stayed for much shorter periods of time. We are now holding almost exclusively a population of young people between the ages of 16 and 20 who were formerly held on Rikers Island before Raise the Age, who are charged with serious offenses that are extremely complex and take quite some time to resolve in the courts.
Thank you. Maybe for later, but if you could share the breakdown of pretrial versus folks that are serving a sentence, that would be helpful.
It's about 95% of the young people are pretrial.
Thank you. That says it all. Thank you.
I believe Councilmember Williams had a follow-up question.
She's not here.
Oh, she's not here. Look at that. I'll pass it back to Councilmember Joseph. Oh, she's here.
Councilmember, okay.
Yes, I got clarification. It was that the teachers don't have the keys, and so that has caused struggles within some of the facilities because the teachers don't have the keys to get in and out of certain spaces and places in the facility. So if you can explain that, the thinking around that, why does that exist? Why don't teachers have keys?
Teachers don't have keys due to safety issues.
What's the safety issues? Is that the final answer?
And you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the safety issue that Nancy's referring to is that if they have the keys on them, then what has been raised with regards to safety from ACS is that the students might try to take the keys. I could be wrong, but is that
Yes,
accurate?
and this is all coming back to me now, so thank you so much to the person who texted me. You know who you are. Because I remember specifically, she said that there has been numerous occasions where teachers needed to move around and they were not able to do that because they were they were beholden to an ACS worker. So it was having essentially like negative impacts on them. Like, let's just make up something. Like, they want to start the class and they need to get into the classroom, but they can't move around the building because the ACS worker is somewhere else. Those were some of the things that I had heard.
Well, there are corridor staff who can open the classrooms, and there are youth development specialists who are on the school floor who are always available to open the classrooms. So I do think we were struggling with that much more in the past, and it has been mitigated. I'm not going to say there's never an issue, but for the most part, when teachers are en route to a location, there is a staff member who can facilitate their entry.
Yeah, I think part of the problem, though, with this whole thing is that because there has been so many challenges in the past, that it's so hard to regain everyone's trust that you are actually rectifying these issues. So I hear you, because I was going to say maybe this was an issue in the past, maybe there was like a, and then you have these like extreme cases, and not that the extreme cases mean it happens all the time, but then you have this extreme case that people learn about, and then there's like so much work to do to gain people's credibility and trust that you're rectifying. But okay, that was it. That's the thing that I wanted to mention, because from what I have been told, and the person who I spoke to actually is technically a DOE employee. They retired, but they were like a guidance counselor within one of the facilities for a very long time, and she cited that as like a major issue. So that's why I wanted to raise it.
And I don't know, just help me understand, and I know they said for safety reasons, but what makes ACS staff more qualified to have the keys than DOE staff? Like, I'm not understanding the safety component there. So why is it safe for ACS staff to have it and then not the DOE staff? I'm confused.
Our staff is trained in managing the young people if they do things that they're not supposed to do. So they're not supposed to have access to the keys, and sometimes a young person might want to leave a location where they are. They're not allowed to do that, and sometimes they will try to get access to the keys to do so. We don't want a teacher to be in the position where they have to manage that. So our staff is differently trained and positioned.
So is this a training thing? So if teachers were saying like, hey, I want to be trained because, I think that I'm just trying to get out, like, that could be a deterrent for someone wanting to be there. And just to say like, oh, well, this person is trained and you're not, like, is that a training issue then? Is that something that you guys ever even considered of, like, can be a deterrent for people? Because I would think listen, I worked at a Williams Smith site, and it was like some weird things like that happened in our facility too, and I just didn't understand. And so I'm just trying to just get a better understanding of like, so then why wouldn't we train the teachers to be able to also be able to keep themselves safe and be able to de-escalate those things?
Our agency partners are not trained in safe crisis management, which is our tools for managing these issues. It has not come to my attention that any teacher has requested to be trained. Generally, the way the facilities work is that the uniformed staff are trained and the non-uniformed staff do not engage in those practices. That is the role of the uniform staff.
So only uniform staff has keys? Non-uniform staff does not?
Uniform staff has keys for the corridors and for the classrooms.
But that wasn't my question. So does non-uniform staff have keys to the facilities to be able to get it out? Because I know you said, but I'm in a rabbit hole because
Not
some
our
of this is.
agency partners, so no.
I know not the agency partners, but that's the question I'm asking is because you just said that the uniform staff and the non-uniform staff are trained differently. But then I know you also said that that folks who were in the corridors, like the youth specialists, do they have keys? Like, so.
Yes, they have keys.
Again, this is a place where I think we need to look because that could be a deterrent for teachers wanting to be there, right? And so I know we have a whole bunch of other questions and I'm in a rabbit hole, but I think that's a little strange to me.
Thank you. At Horizon, how many classrooms are used for sleeping quarters?
Right now, one.
And for the other facility?
Right now, one.
One, not 3 to 5?
No, right now, one.
One for both sites?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. With regards to indicating the reason for a student's absence, can you confirm the definition of the R code and explain when and why and whom is it entered?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
With regards to indicating the reason for a student's absence, can you confirm the definition of the R code and explain why and by whom it's entered?
I'm sorry, that's a New York City public school.
So the release code 90 is used when students don't have the opportunity to attend school due to a decision made by the host agency. So for example, if ACS doesn't bring a group of students to school, like I said earlier, because of flooding concern or safety concerns, that's when the code is used. So note that when attendance release, students are not counted as an absent because they did not have the opportunity to attend school. Release code 90, that's our code, is only available for use in East River Academy, as well as for ACS.
And who enters that code?
We do. We enter.
You enter it. Okay, is the R code exclusively for escort-related absence, or does DOE apply it for other types of operational barriers inside the detention? What is it exclusively used for that?
The R code is exclusively used when students are not brought to the classrooms. That's the R code that's used.
So can New York City Public School distinguish between absence caused by ACS, missed escort, and absence caused by facility-wide, for example, lockdown, classroom unavailability? If so, what are the codes?
That is something that we can explore, but we do have different absent codes when students, like I said, are sick. If for some
Would you
reason-
be able to get that back to the committee? That was something we would love to see.
Okay.
Okay.
Definitely.
And do you do any internal audits or R codes absence? If not, why not?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
Do you conduct any internal audit of the R code absences?
We do. So with our R code absences, as Nancy shared, we have weekly meetings. And so we discuss the attendance issues during that meeting. That's one of the agenda items each week.
And then when you meet, do you come up with solutions as to how do we lower those numbers of absences for students attending coming to classes?
That's always the work at that collaborative meeting, is how do we triage and come up with a comprehensive plan to address it.
We would love to see what that plan looked like. What percentage of total absence for youth in detentions are coded as R? And what are the other codes? What are the percentage for the other codes as well?
Yeah, hold on. Currently, for this current school year, it is 16%. Or 16 or 17% for this current so as of September 1 to 11, 12, 16%.
And the other codes, what are some of the percentages?
I know I have it. So some of and we don't, I can forward that information to you.
The committee is interested in that.
Yes, I just want to give you like some of the codes. It's like absent, agency appointment, illness, special events, so I can send that information to you.
That would be very helpful. How many R-coded absences were recorded in the last school year at Horizon and Crossroad, and how does this compare to the 2 previous years?
Give me 1 second, because I know that's included in the legal law 200. I just have to find the page. Give me a second. So we don't necessarily have it by percentage, but if on the on the local law 21 document. You do see it on page 14. And so that site is there. And then it's also on, only because it's just a lot of different numbers, I don't just want to throw numbers out at you. And that's also in the 2022-2024 version of the document.
For students with disabilities, does New York City Public School report R-coded absence to New York State Education Department?
We have, well, the code is documented in their attendance record, so it'll follow along with them.
It follows along with them, and okay. And you said earlier you do meet for corrective action for if a student shows up for too many times absence, you flag
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah.
Okay. Earlier, I'm going to do a follow-up real quick on Chair Stevens' question. We found that Advocates for Children found that nearly 78% of students discharged were expected to re-enroll in New York City public schools, yet many received no transition assistance, and that's something I heard before. So what are we doing differently when they go back to community? How do you re-enroll students and provide the support, or do you sometimes provide a safety transfer from one school to another? Do you facilitate that?
So we do facilitate it, and that's why, as I've mentioned before, the work has been strengthening up that work stream. So we designated an AP to oversee that work. We're hiring additional social workers to strengthen that work. But then we've also been intentional with the Office of Student Enrollment that there's a designee that works there that works in direct communication with us. We have also, and I know that my counterpart, not my counterpart, but one of the superintendents that I work with was here maybe 2 weeks ago. One of the things that we've also found is that because of the needs of our students when they're transferring out back into the New York City public schools, is that we strengthen our partnership with the transfer schools, because we found many of the students are in need of wraparound services in a smaller space setting. We've also just overall, all the community superintendents as well as the high school SUPs, if there's a need, we can always reach out to them so that they can help us with expediting that process. And one of the things that we want to continue working on that we have in place is ensuring that even when the students move on, that we still do those wraparound services and those checks for them. And so that's what we recognize, is that we need more bodies because of the high numbers that have been coming to us and how the students are going back and returning.
Your colleague 2 weeks ago, what I told him was transfer schools was a dumping ground with no support services for students. That's what I told your colleague 2 weeks ago on the record.
But I want you to also know that one of the things that we have prided ourselves is to ensure that it is not a dumping ground, because so when we choose to send them to a transfer school, we vet it first. So there is there's also a placement center that's there. We always want to make sure that our students are being placed in an environment that suits them. And so we don't just give them one place, we always give them a choice of multiple places that they can
We
go.
want that. We both love transfer schools, and we just wish a lot of the services were in place when students get there. And that's one thing I told your superintendent, Mr. Sullivan, that they should be working on, and providing support when the students return back to community, that they're not left alone. And this should be a conversation with both agencies, right? What are the needs that made that student go down that path? How are we supporting them with all of the wraparound services, whether it's job, whether it's housing, whether it's counseling? That has to be around that student in order for that student to succeed.
And can I also just extend, because we absolutely agree with what you're lifting, what we've also been able to do is not only leverage the traditional models of going back to their home school, but we leverage the resources that we do at large in District 79. So we have some students that after placement, they might go to a traditional school, but we've given them access to co-op tech so that they can get a skill or a trade that's there. If they go back to their home schools and they happen to be a student parent, we give them access to what we can give them at Life. If they happen to go back to their home school and they need credit recovery, we give them access to the YABC. So I think that's some of the things, when I talk about the transfer school, what we're working with collaboratively is how do we leverage the resources that we have in D79 overall with the space and infrastructure that's in the transfer school, so the students can get that wraparound services that you emphasize. That's definitely important that we agree with.
It's important. I remember back in 2023, I brought this up, and I'm going to bring this again. Why do we continue to release young people from detention without school placements, despite New York State education legal requirement for transition planning and district liaison? How fast does someone is already there to welcome that student and make sure they're going down the right path and having all the support in place?
So transition begins at the very beginning. So I know that was something that I think in one of the references was like, how do we make sure that there's no interruption?
Correct.
So we have outreach and we engage with the homeschools to learn about what the student was doing, where the transcripts were, what's the most ideal pathway. And we have those conversations with the students and the parents throughout that student's time that's here. Part of the assignment, and I might say, not assignment, but what happens to them when they're on the way out of passages is not always, it's not determined by us. It really is determined by the courts. And once that information is provided to us, then we are able to thread them through the NP. So in some cases, it might be that, no, you have to stay longer. In some cases, you have to go to a different assignment. In some cases, it might be a non-public school setting. The only gap that we've notice that we are working on is that information gets provided and it takes 24 hours for it to be uploaded, but that's something that we're doing internally to make sure that it's very smooth and swift. But the goal is to really expand the capacity of our teams because, like I said, we have a high number of students who have been coming in, and we just want to make sure that we have the capacity to give each one the individualized attention that they deserve.
How do you track students who fail to return to school after discharge? Does ACS notify New York City Public Schools, courts, or the attorneys? How does that work?
So what we do internally is what we track is the number of students that once we have provided them this new space to go to, what their attendance record is like. But I don't know what ACS is.
But the attendance before 17 and 18-year-olds averaged 42% in 2025. So what happened to the rest of the 53?
So what we have found is that many of the students will begin, and then when we do outreach, some parents will say, well, you know what, the student doesn't want to come, or there's numbers that are disconnected. So that's what our work is, to really make sure that we get them engaged, that we stay in communication, have those information, have the documents updated so that we can really stay engaged. Hence the reason why we want to broaden
Are we
work.
using social workers and attendance teachers to collaborate and do that work together?
We do that, but like I said, we need, because it's the high volume that's coming to us, we do need more bodies to man that piece.
So we got a lot of hiring to do as well.
But I don't know what you guys don't do. No. They don't do school transitions.
You do all the school transition, and who's your partner in this work? What other agencies other than New York City Public Schools?
It's the majority is New York, for the most part, it's New York City Public Schools and our different departments. But we can explore what other agencies can support us with this.
We always say the agencies don't talk to each other when they should be doing this work in partnership and not in silos. Earlier you mentioned about transition specialists assigned to each detention facilities. What's the student ratio? What's the students specialist ratio?
Give me one moment, I'm sorry. So I can give an overview of what we have across all.
And then you're going to send me the data. Data drives this work, guys. That's what we talk about. Data drives this work. We cannot do it. I cannot pass a budget. I cannot.
So, no, I'm going to share because we do have some figures. So we have 14 social workers as well as 10 counselors across all of our facilities. The social worker is the primary point person that's responsible for providing the transition support to the students. And the goal, like I said, is to keep expanding, but the ratio changes because, remember, it's very fluid with regards to how many students are coming in versus how many students that are going out.
Just give me a figure right now. If we were talking right now, what would be the student ratio? Okay. I know it changes. We know that. They're on a rotational basis. We get that. But what's the student ratio for?
So the student ratio to, it's anywhere, I need you to explain this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Because I don't want to just misrepresent what I'm saying. So it's on average of anywhere from 1 to 30 or 1 to 40, depending on how many students are in need. But that doesn't speak to the transition out, but that speaks to the person that's almost like the case manager servicing the student. And that's the lead.
Okay.
Yeah.
1
And
to
that's-
40, that's a lot.
That's why we're trying to onboard
a lot.
more staff members so that we can make sure that we can decrease those ratios, because once again, the social workers are the ones that are in the lead of it, but we have other members that are part of the transition team, so we have the guidance counselors, teachers, and so forth, part of that work.
One of the things we talked, and I know young people tell us this all the time, is there any training to support New York City Public Schools to reduce stigma and bias when young people return back to their home school? They're usually frowned upon.
And I think that's the importance of why we lift the work that we do in District 79 and who our people are. I don't think it's necessarily frowned upon, so I know you're saying that they're frowned upon. I know that there's some negative connotations that might be placed on these students, but our mantra is that a moment doesn't define your destiny. And knowing that the path to rehabilitation is education, and that's something that we always make sure that we uplift about the great work that's happening while our students are in our custody.
Yeah, but outside, now that they've left you, they went back to their home school. Is there training for administrators and educators when they walk back into the building to feel welcome? Things happen, right? Life happen, and they're back, and our whole mission in society is to make sure we're giving second chances to young people, right? Are there training for bias and stigma when a young person go back to their home school?
So we've had conversation with OSID, and that's been the work of how do we make sure that our reentry process is as tight as it can be, so that when the students come back, it is a fresh start, they're being re-entered, so it's a warm pass-off. So we've been leveraging our social workers that we have citywide, so that they're training and they're onboarding that group that brings the students back into the community.
How
So
many of the students you track that go back to their home school?
we
How
track,
many go and how many doesn't go back, and how do you keep track of them? And how many have you lost in the system?
So I'm going to say with regards to the homeschool, the law is that within a year, if you go back to within a year, if you have the right to return back to your homeschool. Many of our students who are in these settings are being displaced for more than a year because what was mentioned earlier, because of not delays, but the complexity of their cases, so they're with us a lot longer. But the goal is that we find them a space that's conducive to the needs. So even if they're not going back to their home school, we always provide them a list of possibly 3 schools that they can go to, and we are in constant communication with those families that if those 3 schools didn't work, that we provide other opportunities.
I bet you I'm going to hear differently from the parents, because I know there are parents in the audience ready to testify. I'm sure it's going to be different. How does New York City Public School provide additional academic support to recently discharged youth, and how is it supported and tracked for effectiveness? And do you provide, earlier you talked about the training in the college, is there a survey when young people enter the system? Do they get a survey, or when they leave, is there an exit plan?
When the students leave, there is an exit plan because we believe that a high school diploma is not the end, it's the beginning. And so part of that reentry plan that we do with them going back into a New York City public school setting speaks about the assessment of what they've done when they were with us. So as you've asked before, one of the things that we make sure is that we do an evaluation of their transcripts, and then we also make sure that the work that they're getting while they're with us is adhering to that. So like for one example, we had a student that came to us, and it was in the middle of a semester. The student came to us in the middle of the semester. We was able to connect with that homeschool, get all the resources, get all the work done so that when the student transitioned back in, they didn't skip a beat and they were eligible for graduation.
I'm going to pass it on to Chair Stevens, and she'll pass it back to me.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions. I just had a really quick question. I know before you had mentioned that ACS staff is trained with crisis management. That's the training that you guys still use currently, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that was created in 1982, and apparently that was to when the folks were working with younger youth and they were like much lighter weight. Does ACS think that it might be appropriate to start looking for some more up-to-date trainings for staff? Because I'm getting messages that they feel like it might not be appropriate for the setting anymore.
Well, we just started, we did a small pilot of verbal de-escalation training which we believe is going to be an important addition to SCM. We are planning to roll this out across the continuum. We did a small pilot with our providers and some staff in secure detention. We have found that relationship is critical in mitigating conflict in the facilities, and often when the young people are in relationship with the staff, the conflicts are addressed much more quickly. And by providing additional skills and training to allow our staff the tools to approach young people when they're dysregulated or upset, we have seen our most skilled staff be able to mitigate conflicts quite quickly. And we are hoping that this additional training will address many of those issues.
Yeah, no, agreed. Building relationships with the young people is the best tool that we have, and I 100% understand that. But I think still making sure that they have options of training. Do you do joint trainings with like your ACF staff and like DOE or other partners that's in the facilities? Are any of those trainings joint, or is it done separately?
We have done joint trainings.
Is that something that's done regularly, or is that like runoffs? What does that training schedule look like?
Some of the trainings, some of the trainings that we've done collaboratively are things that kind of overlap in the work stream that we do, and then there's some trainings that are done separately. So
yeah, obviously, that's what I'm asking. Okay. Do you guys have like what is the cadence of those trainings, and do you guys have a list of what those trainings might be that you're doing collaboratively? Because I think that it is important that like when people are in these places, that training and things are happening consistently. And so do you guys have like a list of trainings? Because this wasn't a question, this one is a pop quiz. So if you don't have the list, I would love for you guys to send the list, because I would love to see like what and how the collaboration efforts are happening in those training moments and spaces, and how frequently it happens.
We can forward that.
Okay, I have some questions about students with disabilities. How does ACS ensure that youth are escorted to schools for IEP services?
So we have meetings with school staff every morning, the youth development specialists who are responsible for bringing the young people to school. There will be a meeting in the morning to identify which young people are scheduled for counseling sessions, and there are specific efforts made to ensure that those young people come to see their counselors.
What internal logs is this showing how many IEP sessions were missed due to escorts or lock-ins?
We are 100% compliance with our special education plans.
But you don't keep track of when they miss services or anything like that?
What we do, what I'm saying is that with regards to, like you're saying, with their lockdowns and so forth, the goal is always to do service recovery.
Okay. How does ACS notify DOE when a student with disabilities is not brought to school? Is it the same notifications of any other student?
Yes.
Does ACS participate in cross-agency meetings on IEP compliance?
If we're invited into that space, we will participate.
Yeah, I know sometimes that gets real difficult.
Yes.
I was in schools and it becomes tricky. But I will say when we weren't invited in, it often got difficult for us to be able to do the work. And so I think that those are places where we really need to figure out a better system.
So I just want to share on just to kind of piggyback on the fact that we do have weekly meetings, and when we have the weekly meetings around the students, sometimes we highlight specific students as well. So it's not just a meeting about things that can be done, it's a collaboration. I'm not sure what Lainey's title is, so I'm sorry, I can't, but I know there's an educational point that'll be a part of those conversations with us when we look at a particular student and the needs that they have. So even if they can't be there directly in the moment because we're scheduling them, throughout, and want to make sure that we do them all within 30 days, but we do definitely hear from them and engage with them to hear insight about the students, for lack of a better space, when they're not in the school setting. Because remember,
Yeah.
these students are here all
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah,
so
they
we
live
wanna-
there.
Yeah, they live there. And so we want to hear, like the same way we would engage, with the same way we engage with the parents to find out how they were at home prior to being incarcerated, prior to being detained. We also get that information from various staff members in this space as well.
What training do youth development specialist staff receive on educational rights of students with disabilities?
We don't train them in that. I mean, we do train them in what the basic needs, education needs are, and the youth development specialists who are assigned to the school and supporting the school are in daily conversation with Passage's leadership and staff. So if a particular student needs a particular service, the YDS are aware of that and they are supporting that.
I would love to see us figure out how to make sure we're supporting young people with disabilities, because even them saying like they're getting the services, I think that having a better understanding of why and the follow through behind is just as important as well. How does ACS ensure program flow, housing cohorts, and lock-ins procedures don't interfere with IEP services?
It is our goal to deliver every young person to school every day. And that includes students with disabilities and not with disabilities. And so to the extent that we can, we do our best every day to ensure access to school.
How does ACS coordinate with DOE to re-enroll youth in community schools after discharging from close to homes?
I'm not
How do you coordinate with DOE to like re-enroll youth in community school or in schools after they're discharged from close to homes? Like, is it the same? Because I know that they have a transitional team, but like, how does ACS follow up with some of that work for students who are leaving the close to homes programs?
So in close to home, the agencies follow the young people for 6 months after discharge. And so those conversations, the aftercare conversations, and the Fair Futures coaches who are working with the young people will interact with the school where the young person is enrolled and will support the young person in attendance.
Okay, so part of the close to homes contracts is a 6-month after care piece.
Yes, close to home, yes.
So why don't we do that with all the kids?
Because detention is a much different, in close to home, we know when the young person is going
Yeah,
to be released because they're leaving after a sentence. The court does not control those releases. The court controls the releases in detention, and the young people who leave detention and re-enter the community generally have open cases and are represented by counsel and have plans that are developed by their counsel and the courts.
What happens when the kids don't have that?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I was asking because she said that with the council, like a lot of times that's done through the courts and their council, but what happens to the students who don't have a plan from the council or they are being discharged? What happens in those instances?
We are in conversation with the young people and their parents, and so sometimes a young person or a family member might ask for support. Part of the reason
So they have to ask for it?
Well, part of every young person has a case manager, and so the case manager is talking to the young person about what their plans are after discharge, and sometimes a young person might say they're going to do something on a referral. That referral may not work out. The young person may not want that particular service after going, so they might call the facility and ask for another referral, and so that ongoing referral process is happening. And one of the big reasons why we onboarded the Assistant Commissioner of Reentry is to develop a more solidified model and practice around reentry support.
And this new role, they haven't started in this role yet?
They're in week 2.
Okay. Yeah, no, because I think that it's important, like, yes, if there's instances where they're going, maybe upstate or whatever, and that's fine, but there are students or young people who are being discharged and kind of left to figure it out. And it is traumatizing to have to call the facility to get another referral. And so there should be a plan. And even with like close to homes, if we see that that's a necessity there, why wouldn't we be doing that with all the young people? Because a lot of the reasons they're in these predicaments is because of lack of services and lack of resources, and not necessarily might not have the know-how to find those services. So I think I'm really happy to hear that there's a transitional personnel, because that is a clear gap in what is missing in some of this.
And I just want to kind of just echo in what the work will be, is that we work collaboratively, some of the things that you've been saying with regards to that transition, because it's a heavy load for us to try to do independently.
Yeah.
But we will pull our resources so that we can come up with a plan, to echo what you said, that we make sure that everybody is watched.
Yeah.
And one of the benefits of our relationship with our nonprofit partners, Children's Village, BPI, CCA also provide services, is that they also can provide referrals to young people and follow them in the community. And we have seen young people, doing well in services that have been referred by those partners.
Listen, I hear you, but then if we're gonna ask partners to do that because they're doing it, we should then pay them to do it. Like,
Well, they are paid to do it. It's part of their contract.
So if that's part of the contract, then that was the question that I was asking. All right, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. All right, I don't have any more questions right now. I'll pass it back to Councilmember Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Question I have around a report released this morning by Advocates for Children found that a total of 16.5% of students with IEPs between 2023 and 2025 did not receive their legally mandated, did not receive a special education plan within 30 days of enrollment at Passages Academy. As New York City Public School, is it legally required to provide that? What attributes to this failure?
So I mentioned it, but I'll reiterate again. So if it's 16% that didn't, that means that it's 84% that did. That means 84% received their SCP, the special education plan, within 30 days. The ones that do not have it within 30 days, I'll share again. One of the biggest issues is that we want to make sure that the parents are part of those conversations, so it takes a little bit longer, because we don't want to do it without their inclusion. But I'm always happy to report that we have 100% compliance between it being within 30 and not in 30 days. But the majority of them, the vast majority of them, are done within 30 days.
I would love to see a 0%. That's the goal.
Well, that's the goal. So, and that's where it's been. It went from 21, like I'm very honest.
Yeah.
So it went from 79 to 88. And so the goal is to get to 100, that all of them are done within 30 days. But we are really committed to making sure that the parents are involved in it. And so if it is the 29th day and the parent said, I can't make it, can we extend? We do extend. But our goal is to make sure that we have all our parents involved.
Yes, and the New York City Public School plan to remedy the mismatch between students' need and services provided. How do you match the students' needs? I know it's on the SCP, but sometimes we miss it.
So what we do, that's why that's why we hired the administrators, so that we don't miss it. The goal has been to review what's being required and what's being asked for, and that's our cross-reference to make sure that those things are actually happening. And one of the things, like I said earlier, that we're very proud of is that if there are those gaps, we've partnered with Special Education Dial so that we can have those seed programs, so those missed opportunities that are not happening during the day can be remedied on the weekends.
How many psychologists do you have?
Let me see. Thank you. 2.
But nearly 40% of your students are classified with special needs.
So the psychologists would be the ones that would be doing the reevaluation, and we don't have a large population of students that do reevaluations and triennials. But we do have our largest population of pedagogy is special education, and our goal is to every year increase that head count of special education teachers.
And what's the timeline for that?
So the timeline has been to onboard at least 4 special education teachers each year. Unfortunately, what we're facing is that many of our teachers have been here for such a long time. So as we onboard, there's some that retire. And so we are really trying to be more aggressive with how many people that we're onboarding. But then we also are making sure that we're intentional of just training all of our teachers with regards to MTSS and different different strategies, that whether a student has an IEP or not, that you're able to meet the different performance levels that they're facing.
Will you share the IEP compliance data with us? The committee would love to see that.
I hear you. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Our English language learners, according to Advocates for Children, found that 216 English language learners who were enrolled during the 2023, 2024, 2024-25, nearly a quarter received no English as a new language instruction while in ACS custody. What does New York City Public Schools attribute to this failure?
So I'm going to share again at this point right now, our current compliance rate is 91%. We have a total of 42 students we have a total of 46 students who require ENL instruction, and there's 4 that's not receiving it, well, technically not in compliance, because we have an ENL teacher who has just recently retired. What we've done, though, is that we've hired a sub that's delivering the services, but because that's not a full-time person, we don't hit the 5 out of the, there's 5 different components. We only hit the 4 out of the 5 to receive full components. What we are intentional, but at Crossroads, specifically in Horizon, those students are receiving their services. We know specifically what facility we have the gap, and we've been working with our district level L department to make sure that those needs are being addressed.
Well, the Office of Multi-Language Learners is supporting that? Or are they working with you to provide the English language learners instructions?
They definitely do. We have a great partnership with the folks that oversee that department, and that's why we can proudly say that we're at 91% of compliance and our students are receiving the instruction. But because we don't have a permanent replacement, we've been using a sub. That's why we're getting hit with the compliance piece.
Okay, so we have to fill that in.
Yeah, we're definitely aggressively hiring. Once again, if there's an ENL person listening to this, please forward your resume. We are looking for them.
I love to tell agencies and folks that they should always send it out to all of the council members, because we're always getting things, and
Exactly.
we're always underutilized. So
Stacey.
please send it out to us so that
Stacey, send it to all. Yeah,
all 51 of us.
we will
because
share it with you.
We'll be able
And we'll
to
share it.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
How does New York City Public School determine school budget for Passages Academy and Restart Academy?
So we have an allocation that's given to us, so I'm going to just review it so I don't speak out of turn. So we have 3 key fundings. So we have federal funds, example, Title I, neglected and delinquent, Title III. We get tax levy restricted, which is 80/80, tax levy 80/80 money, and tax levy NISTL funds. And then we have tax levy unrestricted, which is also tax levy instructional programs for D79/close to home.
And how do you use any per pupil calculation or weights
We
for this
don't,
population?
we do not do per pupil, and we do not have like the fair student funding piece, but we do encourage your advocacy for revisiting the funding formulas for these locations, because many of the ones that we've had have been in place for a long time.
Yeah, we were very instrumental in changing that. How much funding did each school receive for 2025 and 2026 school year?
So we don't, it's not necessarily, even though we have 2 principals, it's still one budget combined. So for the one budget combined, it's $17,325,252.
Thank you. Is there any pedagogical headcount associated with each school? What is the non-pedagogical pedagogue?
Hold on a second. Just give me one more.
None.
Tired. So I have the pedagogical count that I can share with you. We currently, well, I can give you all. So we have 53 teachers, 3.5 ENL teachers, a total of, this is currently in place, not what's allocated. We have 11 special education teachers, but as I've shared, some of them have since retired. 3 paras, 4 guidance counselors, 2 psychologists, 14 social workers, so that's a total of 90. And the goal is to expand that staffing to meet the increased number of students that we're receiving.
Does any of those programs, these programs do not receive Galaxy allocation?
We get out Galaxy allocation, but the funding source is different from what it would be in a traditional school.
Okay. What is the number of youth in secure detention facilities who are enrolled in education programs? Just need a number.
Enrollment as of 11/12/2025, we have 167 at Crossroads, 172 at Horizon, bringing a total to 339, versus the capacity being 110 at each site.
And you'll send us the breakdown by program for high school equivalency, college courses, and any other?
I have that.
You can share?
So for middle school level, we have a total of 6 between Crossroads and Horizons. We have 228 for our high school pathway, and we have 71 who are HSC pathway. And then we have a small number that's post-grad, and the post-grad that we have is that we're just still really finalizing their transition pieces.
That's a lot. I just have one more question for you. Can you give me the breakdown of the type of certificate and educational programs for Crossroads and Horizon?
When you say the type of,
Certificate and educational program. I know
so
that-
I'll go say the educational pathways that we have is that you can obtain promotion by way for middle school students. For our high school pathways, we have traditional high school diploma, and then we also do Regents diploma. And then for our HSC, it's a high school equivalency.
Is there alternative assessment for students with special needs?
So what I will say, we really pour into our students. We had a student, I can't say his name, but we had a student recently where they came in as an alternate assessment. We poured a lot of resources into them in combination with ACS, with the tutoring, the Children's Village, and that child was able to graduate with an HSC equivalency within 3 years.
Nice.
And so that's the work, is that, our goal is to, wherever you come in with us, we pour in the resources, because like I said, high school is not the end, it's the beginning, and the only way to rehabilitate is to educate. That's our truest belief.
And is there a plan, earlier you mentioned middle school, is there a plan to expand, transfer middle schools? That was one of the questions I had. You only have one, it's Restart, right?
So the Restart Academy that we have is something that we leverage. We have one, but it's throughout the entire city.
Okay.
And so we have one in each borough, and we're looking to expand that. We've been in conversations with different superintendencies, because we also want to make sure that we don't just open schools anywhere.
Correct.
Especially for our Restart population, we always embed it within a high school, so that the students get that social aspect and that they already see what the next step is. So the work is always to expand our services in Restart. So absolutely, these students that come from here always get priority entry. And that's the one thing with Passages. Any student that goes through Passages Academy always has priority in any of our D79 programs.
Okay. So thank you. My next set of questions is for Chris. In your testimony, you distinguished between food surplus and waste. Does OFNS currently collect data on surplus food and surplus waste at the school level? And how is New York City Public School committed to collecting and reporting data on surplus food and surplus waste so we can ensure a successful pilot program?
Excellent question. Going back to the testimony, we distinguish between food waste, items taken but not consumed. Once a student takes food from the line, the share table is available for them to leave and donate that food to the share table. Once they do go to their table and they decide not to eat one of the components that they did take, it does go in the trash. When it comes to surplus, meaning what we ordered, we make sure to use everything that we order. We track inventory dates. In a case where a school may be evacuated and we need to donate the food, we can either move the food from site to site or we can actually donate it. Our goal is to not have any surplus at all. We track that. We make sure we're also monitoring spend as well as the number of meals being served annually, monthly, weekly, daily.
Thank you. Your statement mentioned that your efforts to minimize waste include staff training on accurate ordering, batch cooking. Apart from training, how does your office monitor whether or not schools are implementing the training?
We actually are carefully paying attention to student meal participation daily. We also look at student daily attendance. Principals must communicate with the kitchen to make sure we know the number of students that are there. We're cooking based on the number of students that are attending, the number of students for each period, and also the specific menu item for that day. We know more popular items versus less popular items. We track all of the inventory that's there, and we track the usage per day for every single student that's taking a meal.
Any other comments you'd like to make about the bill or feedback? Are you good?
I think this is an excellent way to continue to educate school communities, students. We currently still have the Nutrition Collaborative, which is now in 400 schools. During the Nutrition Collaborative, we thank the council and others for that. We're training school communities on what food to take and what it should look like when they're actually taking it back to their table, discussing it with children, discussing it with their peers, as well as teachers actually understanding and how to teach food education standards in the classroom.
Well, thank you so much. We're all good today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Always happy to hear from you, and
Same
we
here.
implement it accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you.
so
We'll
much.
be around to see you.
I know
Yes,
we
we're,
will be
we're-
around.
we're coming to visit. We
We're
couldn't
ready to
come
vi-
before, but
we're
we're
ready.
definitely coming to visit. And I just want to make sure that I go on record as saying that, like, you know, this is about making sure that the young people who are in these facilities are getting the supports that they need. Again, these were the concerns that the young people brought up to us, and we want to make sure that we are being reflective of what their concerns are. And also, in no way, either of us are advocating for the locking up of children, but like I told ACS before, you're doing a service, and so everyone else needs to do their part to make sure that they're not getting to these facilities so that we can get these numbers down, because that's part of the problem. And so you guys are in a weird predicament, because I believe if you build it, they will come, but the reality is we have allowed them to come, so we also need to be putting our heads together to figure out how to get these numbers down, and can't use the excuse of raise the age, because we knew that was coming and we should have prepared for that, and the governor should be paying for those services and all the things, and so some of those things are out of your control, but I want us to make sure that we are working together to do everything that we can to have the highest standard for our young people and the people who show up to work there every day, for everyone. And so this is really what this is about, and thank you for your continued collaboration and working together with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I now open the hearing for public testimony. I remind the members of the public this is a formal government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recordings or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video regarding the testimony, but they may submit transcript of such recordings to the Sergeant of Arms for including in the hearing recorded. If you wish to speak today, in today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant of Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you have 2 minutes to speak on today's hearing topic: educational access to New York City juvenile detention centers. If you have a witness statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant at Arms. I now call the first panel. Who was it? Melinda Andrews. Denicia Boone. Berkey Rivera. Belkis Rivera. Shyla Koff. Charlena Koff, and Derek Robertson. Have fun.
Good afternoon. My name is Melinda Andra. I am an attorney with the Education Advocacy Project at the Legal Aid Society. I have the fortune of working with incredible, resilient young people who want a second chance and who want to be successful. Unfortunately, many of them face extreme challenges, including coming from low-income communities, having experienced foster care, having been disengaged from school, and many of them have disabilities, and their needs have never been met in the public school system. ACS and the New York City Public Schools have a unique opportunity to remediate some of these past failures on the part of our city. And unfortunately, they are failing in that. We hear over and over again from our clients that they're not being brought to school even when they voice a desire to go. We have constant complaints from both Crossroads and from Horizons about that issue. We have reports, as mentioned earlier, of young people sleeping in hallways and in classrooms, making those spaces unavailable for young people for learning. And as pointed out earlier in the testimony, approximately 60% of the absences in last year's report were under the code R due to the agency, not because the child was sick or had court. We appreciate ACS's efforts to provide tutoring, but tutoring is no substitute for school, particularly for a young person with a disability. We see students with disabilities not receiving the appropriate levels of support. There are child fine violations. No annual reviews are happening without extraordinary efforts on the part of attorneys and families. SEPs are boilerplate and offer what the facility has rather than what the child needs. In conclusion, we want to thank you for holding the DOE and ACS responsible for these issues, and we will have further information in our written report. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Danesia B. I work under OPWDD. My son is incarcerated in Horizons. He isn't going to school because there is lack of staff. We have discussed this in court. I have discussed this with staff in there. How also the children are hungry, and this was discussed before last night as well. Them not having the proper food or not eating at a certain time. These are growing boys. I understand that they're there for a reason, but if they're not learning anything in there, how are they going to change when it's time to come home? And on top of that, the facilities need to be cleaned better. Like, if ACS is in control of this, certain things need to be in order. I feel like it's too many excuses going on, or it's not in the budget, or, you know, it's short-staffed it. But there's people out there that's willing to work. You have to give them a chance and stop trying to overlook certain things. And another thing is, when my son got out last year, no one from Passages reached out. I had to go into the Board of Education, and they told me, because of my son's charges, that he can only go to a school that has metal detectors. So when I reached out to probation, probation found a school for them. And the school said, honestly, you know, we don't really want him here if he's not going to take education seriously because it's going to be online.
Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to speak. Thank you. I want to express my growing concern about my son's education at the Juvenile Center. As a parent, academic process and daily access to schooling is extremely important to me. Thank you. I want to make sure that all the children in these facilities are receiving the consistent support that they need. Over the past month, I have learned that there are days when our kids are not taken to school, or when they are told that the classroom has reached a maximum number of students. So no one else is being brought to school. I'm struggling to understand why this is happening and how often these interruptions have occurred. Every missed school day affects their learning stability and routine, and I worry about the long-term impact that this may have on my son's education. I am more than willing to work together to make sure my son stays on track academically and emotionally. I have asked many times how I can support in addressing these issues. But what I'm getting is the youth are sleeping in classrooms and being separated from other youth by being kept in classrooms. Therefore, my son and others cannot go to school every day since the classroom space is being utilized as bedrooms for non-educational purposes. Also, when he is taken to school, sometimes it is only for half a day. And since there are too many youths that need to go to school, those days are being cut out or swapped out. I respectfully request a clarification on why are there days when students are not sent to school. Respectfully, can I continue? Thank you. What determines the classroom capacity and how often this prevents students from attending? That being said, today I would like to know what type of education support will be put in place moving forward. What steps is the facility taking to ensure that every child behind these walls receives the proper education they deserve? And what does education process look for these children on a daily basis? I'll end it here because it's pretty long. As a parent, I am extremely concerned how can we expect these children to grow into productive members of society if they are not given the consistent access to school. Respectfully request a detailed explanation of the facility's educational plan and how you will ensure that my son and all the other youths receive education that they are entitled to. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlana Clough. I am a single mother who passionately advocates for my child because he is my world, my everything. I have an incredibly bright 15-year-old who's passionate about trains and photography. And honestly, I can say that the educational system has failed my child not once but twice. Since moving to New York from Maryland, I've become more frustrated with the lack of consistent policies, educational services, and programs for my child, despite him being in a regular public school or detention facility setting. Limited educational access has hindered the development of my child in addition to our vulnerable students. When my child was a student at Passages, my child was not attending school or not arriving to school on time due to employee shortages. Whenever there was a situation at the facility with a juvenile, other students, including my child, had to miss time from school because according to SCL, rule, all students must travel to and from school together. My child was not given an opportunity to make up his schoolwork due to no fault of his own. What's most alarming about my experience with Passages was when my child informed me a day later that he was not allowed to take the Regents biology exam. I've consistently communicated with Passages and SCO staff, and they both failed to mention to me that my child was at risk of not being able to sit for the exam, especially having 2 meetings 2 weeks prior to June 10th Regents exam date. There was no action plan in place for my child and other students at Passages to complete the required lab work prior to the exam, nor after the exam was administered on June the 10th. This would not have happened at a regular public school. As they almost got away with it, I was the first parent to address both Passages Academy and SCO staff. There was no accountability. Both parties blamed one another. The principal from Passages' plan to rectify the situation was for my child to complete the missing lab work and present the work to a home school once my child transitions back into the community, and it would be up to the decision of my child's home school to accept the lab work, and which is totally unacceptable. This is a disadvantage for my child and other students, as they should not be penalized because of passages failed providing the necessary supports to enable students to complete the lab work. Since my child left Passages, the transition hasn't been easy. He continues to struggle with the routine of it all. Support services on his IEP have yet to be fully implemented, as we were still waiting for an AT device, in which we requested over a year ago, and we have yet to get it, and in addition to a math tutor. This delay has caused my child to fall behind with even more classwork, as certain class requires extensive essay writing. Certainly, this problem has caused my child to disengage. Public schools have standards that they are held to, but this is not the case for Passages. Why is helping students not a priority? Is it because they are in detention centers? Our failed patch educational system does not anticipate juveniles to pursue higher education than high school. Why aren't there any goals for students at Passages to strive for excellence? Why are our students voluntary contestants of double jeopardy and double punishment? Administrators do not realize that our prior systems have failed our students, which led them to become juveniles in the first place. Our students sustained trauma before ended up in the system. Passages overlooked addressing these issues by restricting the number of services provided to students who have learning, attention, and emotional disabilities. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I typically cut people off, but I'm going to let the parents rock because I understand that you're advocating for your kids, and I'm going to give you the time that you need.
Thank you very much. When it comes to our students transitioning back into public school, they are shell-shocked and completely lost once they get back to public school, since Passages and public schools are two very different systems, and this cycle continues. This is not fair, this is a crisis, this is a problem, and this must stop. And would you tolerate these intolerable conditions if it happened to your own child or children? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Derek Robinson. I'm the Vice President of Grievances, Legal Services for the Social Service Employees Union, Local 371. On behalf of President Anthony Wells, officers and staff, and our 20,000 members that we represent, we would like to thank the chairs, Honorable Althea Stevens, on the Committee on Child and Youth, as well as Honorable Rita Joseph on Committee on Education, for the opportunity to give this testimony. SSEU Local 371 represents the Youth Development Specialist Title Series, caseworkers, and program counselors, as well as the Children's Center. I myself served as a tour commander for ACS DYFJ for 24 years. I would like to acknowledge our Youth Development Specialists and program counselors are integral to the welfare and the rehabilitation of the youth in their custody. They provide not only supervision, but also mentorship and guidance, fostering environment where the growth and positive change are possible. Despite their tireless efforts, there are significant challenges that impede their mission to support these youth effectively. Our facilities often face overcrowding, which complicates the ability to deliver personalized care and attention. This environment can hinder effective counseling efforts to and concern at detention. Incidents of youth-on-youth assaults, as well as youth and staff assaults, are distressingly common, such as situations not only endanger the well-being of everyone involved. To address these issues, we explore a broader range of educational and vocational opportunities tailored to the interests and altitudes of the residents in ACS DYFJ care. Implementing trade schools within the juvenile detention facilities can provide invaluable skills and open up career paths, fields such as mechanics, plumbing, carpentry, and electrical work. These trades offer stable employment opportunities upon release and can significantly reduce incidents within both facilities. In conclusion, I urge the Council to consider these recommendations to enhance our current system and establish a more comprehensive approach to youth development. Together, we can foster a safer environment that prioritizes the well-being and future of our young individuals while supporting dedicated staff who work tirelessly to guide them on their journey. Thank you for your attention and for considering the crucial step towards improving the outcome of our youth development specialists and residents that reside at the juvenile detention. In solidarity, Derek Robinson, Vice President of Grievances and Legal Services, Social Service Employees Union, Local 371.
Thank you. I do have a few questions to this panel. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Yes. Bakit? Okay.
Belkis.
Belkis, one, I just want to let you know, I know you said you had a number of questions. I will make sure that my staff gets in contact with you before you leave, because I want to work with ACS so you can get the answers to those questions that you had. But when we're done with this panel, I don't know if my staff is over there. Please connect with her. Thanks. But I don't know who said, but someone said that that the students weren't allowed to go to school because they were at the maximum number of students. What did they explain what that meant? Because this is the first time I'm hearing that.
I'm actually still trying to find the answer to that. I don't understand why that's happened.
And any of the other parents, have you guys experienced similar things with that as well?
Yes, and Horizons, the same thing as well.
And they just told you that they were at the maximum number today, so he wasn't able to go?
Yes.
Okay, well, I know he's here, so I'm asking her a question when I leave, because this is the first time I'm kind of hearing what that term is. I didn't hear that. All right, do you have any questions?
And you also mentioned your child didn't go to school because the rest of the kids, his cohorts, couldn't go to school that day as well, right? Someone mentioned that. Yeah, go ahead. Tell me a little bit about that.
So basically, my child told me that there's been a lot of situations pertaining to other juveniles. It could be any type of situation that happened at the facility, and as a result, especially if it happened early in the morning, that the rest of the kids was penalized and couldn't go to school because of a situation that pertained to one child only, and it's not right. And as a result, the kids either arrived at school late on time, or they did not go to school at all, and the kids was never given an opportunity for them to make up their classwork miss due to no fault of their own.
Okay.
I don't have any more questions for this panel. Oh, you had something, Ed?
Yes, I have a question for ACS. Why is it that we cannot, as parents, help support our children, as in socks, clothing, every time we go see them, or if they go to court, they look a mess. The clothes are ripped up, the shoes are ripped up, the shoes are in terrible conditions. It's always something, even when you go on the visits, they look terrible. Why can't we help take care of our children? Because in other states, ACS, my aunt works for ACS in another state, when it comes to the children in detention centers, the parents are allowed to bring certain clothing, not regular clothing, but at least underwear, socks, t-shirts, sweatpants, something.
That is a great question. And so, while they're here, we'll follow up after the hearing to see why that is something that hasn't been able to be done. So that is a very good question, and I see them taking notes, and so I'm sure they'll be able to answer that question for you.
And as well, I actually asked them if I was able to donate books so they can read, and educational books. These are books that I get because I also do activist work, so I get these books donated to my job, and I wanted to bring them. That when I called, they actually told me, yeah, of course, bring them. When I did, they turned me away and said that I had to mail them one by one, which was like very odd. And I'm like, but I have them here, so you can check them and just, pick the ones that you like for the kids. And it was just like very disappointing. I had to go.
That's something we will definitely address with New York City Public Schools, because I know the superintendent earlier said they wanted to replenish their library.
Yeah.
So that is a conversation we'll also include in our letter to them.
Yeah, that's definitely a follow-up question.
Sorry, once again.
No need to apologize. Listen, I usually cut people off, but you guys are advocating for your kids, so there's no way that I'm going to not allow you to ask the questions that you want to ask. So take the time, and the questions that you want to ask, you can ask.
Why is the library and the church closed for them? They don't have any access to the library or the church. And I heard about packets, but my son has never told me anything about packages and what type of packages. Is it something that ACS is giving, or is it something that the Department of Education is given for them to actually use? Because that was actually asked in court as well. And another thing, my son has special needs, and he was out sleeping on the boat, and he doesn't receive his medication on time, so it throws his body off. So if he's getting his medication at 10 o'clock, the medication doesn't kick in until 12 o'clock. So now he's struggling to wake up, and now he's sleeping out on the boat, which is dangerous because you don't know what child decides to have a behavior to stab somebody, slash somebody, attack somebody. My child is going to be lethargic and out of it. So I had requested for them to put him back in the room, considering he's been there since March 7th. So it took a little while, but they got him in the room.
So you have a time release medication, and,
Yes.
and they know
for
about it.
multiple medications, yes. The
So
psych.
504s are allowed in the facilities, right? Yes, ACS? 504s, that means medication you did administer to a child? Okay, she has a timely release medicine that must be provided to her child on a timely manner.
Well, we'll follow up, and these are questions that I'm sure my staff is taking, and we'll follow up, and we'll make sure we get your contact information as we're working with ACS to get the answer to those questions. But before you guys leave, I know someone said that when your child had said that the facility hadn't been cleaned. I actually just got a text message that someone said that there's only about two housekeeping staff as of yesterday at Horizon, so that might be a reason
Yes.
why.
About 2 weeks ago, my son had wingworm, and wingworms are contagious. And I'm like, well, if y'all not going outside and wearing the same clothes, what's going on? He called me and let me know. Medical didn't even call me and let me know. So I told him not to touch your face, not to touch your hair, because it's gonna spread through your body. And he asked me not to come on a visit. And I was like, so what's going on? How is the facility being cleaned? If we have children that have special needs, we have children that have sensitive skin. My son has von Willebrand disease, which means if he gets cut or injured or break anything, he would have to get a platelet or a blood transfusion. His body does not heal within seconds. He takes minutes to heal. So this is, every time something happens, this is what I have to break down to them.
Yeah, this, like I said, that someone just let me know about the facility and not having enough cleaning staff. So that's something I will follow up with ACS as well. So thank you guys for coming in. I appreciate you. Continue to fight and advocate for your kids. Please use this as a resource. And if there's questions and things that are coming up, please don't let this be the last time. We want to be of support, myself and Councilmember Joseph. And again, thank you for fighting for your kids, because we're fighting along with you. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll be calling the next panel. Lorraine Bridges, Mary McKell, Dr. Jackie Cody, Alexander Raprasada, Melissa Commando,
is supposed to follow the kid. 504 is supposed to follow the kid. And those timely medication, you don't release them on time, yo, that kid will be
a hot mess. Tell him I said hello.
Anti-Semitic in public, I would give him a finger right now.
Be nice with them.
Good afternoon. My name is Lorraine Gittins Bridges. I am one of the co-developers of the citywide leadership team bills. I am also a former co-chairperson for the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council and a core member of school leadership teams and district leadership teams for New York City. And I am a proud New York City public school graduate. And last but not least, I am the chartering president of 2 units of New York State and National PTA. Thank you, Councilmember Josephs and Councilmember Stevens and the Education Committee and the Committee for Youth and Children for supporting the resolutions number 1017, 1018, 1019, urging New York State legislators to pass the citywide leadership team bills. The citywide leadership team is the missing link. As you know, we are the largest school district in the country. Unfortunately, many of our PTAs and school leadership teams are not functioning effectively across our large system. So we don't know exactly a lot of times how to support them. As being a former chairperson, I know where to go to ask, to find out what schools need. But you can't find out what they need if they're not functioning. The CLT is not a top-down approach. It is a bottom-up approach. We have the accountability measures that will help us support our schools in real time, not 10 years down the road. The concept of the citywide leadership team, which is called the school committee, has been sitting in the A655 since 2010. Our students cannot continue to wait. Thank you for joining us in urging our New York State legislators to make the citywide leadership team bills, New York State education law, just like the school and district leadership teams. Thank you again for your support.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Merkel, and I am a staff attorney with the Education Defense Project at the Bronx Defenders, a holistic defense organization serving the Bronx. At the Bronx Defenders, we believe that all children should be free. There should be 0 children in Horizons or Crossroads. However, until all children in this city are free, the very bare minimum they should receive is access to consistent, quality, and intentionally uplifting education. Our young people are told at every turn that education is the way to better their lives. We cannot abandon this idea when it comes to the young people who arguably need consistent, quality, and intentional education the most, those whose lives have intersected with the criminal legal system. Our clients who are detained want to be in school but are not able to regularly attend. Access needs to be more consistent. A student cannot learn if they aren't given actual instructional time in a classroom. Our recommendations are: stop utilizing classrooms for housing students to ensure there is enough classroom space for students to learn in. Children sleeping on cots in classrooms is unacceptable. Intentionally hire bilingual teachers and staff to ensure students that speak Spanish are not deprived of an education while detained because of a lack of staffing. Ensure SEPs are made timely with input from students and their parents. Fulfill their responsibilities under Child Find. Conduct new psychoeducational assessments in a timely manner, as well as other necessary evaluations, and update students' IEPs and SEPs. Increase access to engaging college courses. Increase access to vocational skill building and certifications. Unfortunately, once these young people are released from a detention facility, access to education continues to be a challenge. Many students face discrimination based on their involvement in the criminal legal system. Students are sometimes asked in transfer school interviews about their criminal cases and then denied entry to high schools with specialized programs designed for them. These persistent barriers severely limit the resources and opportunities available for young people we serve. Our recommendations for young people who have been released from juvenile detention facilities are: NYCPS must develop an approach to assisting young people who transition out of juvenile facilities and ensuring support by reimagining the role of transition counselor. This counselor needs to have the authority to issue enrollment letters, grant safety transfers, and to place students in transfer high schools. NYCPS must develop a virtual transition school connected to Passages Academy so students can continue to stay engaged in school daily until a new placement is secured. Sometimes the transfer school application process can take months, and students lose crucial momentum. For students who have been studying for their GED with an online program, they should be given a computer and support to complete their GED studies. NYCPS, in conjunction with transfer high schools, must create additional openings and guaranteed seats at transfer high schools and specialized programs such as Restart for middle and high school students transitioning out of juvenile facilities. These young people deserve to be free, and they deserve our resources and our support. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Alexandra Rapasarda, and I am a senior staff attorney with the Center for Family Representation's Youth Defense Practice. Thank you, Chair Stevens and Chair Joseph and the Committees on Children and Youth and Education for giving us the opportunity to testify today. CFR is the county-wide assigned indigent defense provider for parents who are facing ACS prosecutions in Lower Manhattan, Queens, and Staten Island, and is a conflict provider in the Bronx. In 2019, CFR also expanded its work to represent young people accused of crimes in family court. Our goals are always to prevent children from entering the foster system or youth incarceration systems, shorten the time that families are separated, and help families stabilize when reunited. My experience as an educational attorney and youth defender is in stark contrast to the testimony that the committees heard earlier today. Students who are incarcerated deserve the same or more protections and opportunities than their non-incarcerated peers. Right now, the fact that they are incarcerated is a main determining factor in how much education a child is getting, if any, let alone their special education services. Education, children being connected to their communities and their schools, is a main factor in their success. New York City's inability to provide access to meaningful education to incarcerated young people is actively harming them. An essential piece of educational success is parent and family involvement. When students are incarcerated, families are cut off from participating in a student's education the same way that they could in a community. Parents often do not receive updates from Passages and have little to no information about special education services and progress of their children. This fall, parents across the city participated in things like parent-teacher conferences for their students, but not parents of incarcerated students. Our clients' parents consistently report receiving no information regarding their child's schooling. And at a minimum, these types of instrumental conferences are doable while students are incarcerated and better prepare families when students return to the community. I'll close with, when we know that incarceration harms young people, disrupts their educational progress, and deprives them of special education support, and sends them unsupported back to their communities, City Council must think critically about whether incarcerating young people is ever an appropriate response. At a time when the Raise the Age legislation is under attack, we should critically examine how our city's failure to provide appropriate education in carceral settings plays a role in the critiques of this law.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Councilwoman Stevens and the Education Committee under the leadership of Councilwoman Rita Joseph for the resolutions 1017, 1018, 1019, urging New York State legislators to pass the New York City Citywide Leadership Team bills. My name is Dr. Jackie Cody. I'm an educator and loving parent, and other titles I'm not going to list right now for the sake of time. Briefly, along with protecting democracy, here are some other top reasons why the Citywide Leadership Team, the CLT, is necessary. The CLT provides a model and support for school leadership teams. Because of a well-functioning school leadership team, the school my daughter graduated from in 2023 had 100% graduation rate. Give applause. There are 1,800 plus schools to be accountable and transparent. And since funds go directly from central to schools, it is imperative to have direct insight to provide necessary support to school leadership teams that need it. The chancellor visiting every SLT every year is impractical, and highly improbable. Furthermore, according to New York State Education Department's recommendations from their April 9, 2024 report on mayoral control, New York City stakeholders are calling for the CLT, citywide engagement, shared decision-making, accountability, and transparency. The school principal has a team. The district superintendent has a team. Why wouldn't the chancellor have a team that includes representation of all New York City stakeholders, educators, unions, elected officials, CBOs, and most importantly, parents and students? Parent and student engagement is a must for school success. Studies have shown that parent and student involvement and shared decision-making, enhances academic achievement, provides a comprehensive support system, promotes accountability, develops valuable skills, improves student behavior and well-being, empowers students, increases student engagement in their own education, and provides unique insights that working in silos cannot fathom. Every student deserves direct access to high-quality educational opportunities and programs to reach their own full potential of success. Thank you.
My name is Melissa Accomando, and I am an education attorney at Neighborhood Defender Service of Harlem. I am grateful for the opportunity to participate in today's hearing. I work closely with my colleagues in the criminal defense practice to advocate for the educational needs of our adolescent clients, including those in secure detention. NDS clients who are enrolled in Passages consistently report similar negative experiences at both facilities. Many students are not taken to class or are taken to class late. Others have told us that they are given packets of work to do on their own in their cells. The facilities are often so overcrowded that classrooms are used as overflow housing units. Last month, one client reported that he had not attended school at all since being detained at Crossroads for 3 weeks. Upon reaching out to DOE staff, NDS learned that his hall at Crossroads had not been taken to school due to unspecified facility issues. We are concerned that many students who do not have access to an education advocate are being deprived of an education without any recourse. ACS and DOE need to ensure that all students are taken to school on a daily basis. Access to programming also impacts students over the summer. Last summer, a client did not have the opportunity to earn credits or participate in summer youth employment due to ACS staffing issues. As a result, Passages made the regrettable decision to suspend summer school elective courses. ACS must address these staffing concerns to ensure students are brought to school consistently. The city must also address the overcrowding in these facilities so that classrooms can be used for their intended purpose, for students to learn and participate in the required number of school hours that they are entitled to. Both agencies have the obligation to engage students enrolled in Passages Academy and to provide them with the opportunity to make educational progress. NDS is grateful to the committees for hosting this hearing and working to address these important issues. Youth in detention deserve quality access to education. I have included additional details in my submitted written testimony regarding the DOE's failure to provide legally mandated special education services. There also need to be improved efforts to support transition planning when young people return to their school communities. Thank you for your time and consideration of our comments.
Thank you. We don't have any, do you have questions for the panel? We don't have any questions for the panel. Thank you. Rohini San and Anna, is that a G? Yeah. Oh, Anna Gallagher.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity, Chairs Joseph and Stevens, to testify today. My name is Rohini Singh, and I'm the director of the School Justice Project at Advocates for Children of New York. Each year, we help thousands of families navigate the education system, and our work includes supporting court-involved youth in overcoming the significant challenges of accessing educational and special educational services, both while they're in placement and as they transition back to their communities. Young people in juvenile detention, placement, and adult jails need intensive, targeted educational services and therapeutic interventions. This morning, AFC released a report, Reconnecting to Opportunity, Advancing Educational Equity for Court-Involved Students, which offers an analysis of data from Local Law 21, passed by this council in 2023. The data and our experience demonstrate that there is significant work to be done to address the needs of court-involved youth. Some key takeaways from our analysis of the data include that youth in juvenile detention or placement in 2023 and 2024 and 2024 and 2025 school years were almost twice as likely as their peers to have learning disabilities and more than 17 times as likely to be labeled as students with emotional disabilities. In addition, over half of students who transferred to a New York City public school or program after being discharged from detention or placement missed more days of school than they attended after transitioning back to the community. Our report calls on the city to take several critical steps to better support these students before they enter detention and placement, while enrolled in passages, and as they return to their school communities. First, we urge the city to provide students with critical services in their school communities to help them succeed in school. Some of these services include ensuring every school has a school-based mental health clinic or partnership with a community-based mental health provider, hiring at least one behavioral specialist per district, creating more therapeutic school options and specialized programming within New York City public schools for young people with behavioral and emotional challenges, and ensuring that all middle and high school students struggling with reading receive intensive intervention. Second, advocates have raised the alarm regarding the conditions in secure detention facilities and the numerous barriers for students to actually attend school in these facilities. The city must ensure that students are able to regularly attend and are receiving their special education services and ENL services. Finally, the city must improve the transition process for students coming out of detention or placement to ensure that students can access appropriate educational programs and support their re-engagement in school. We hear from many families that receive no support when they are leaving passages and have no communication with passages staff after their discharge. Our full report is available on our website. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and thank you for highlighting this important topic.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you to Chairs Joseph and Stevens for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Anna Arkin-Gallagher. I'm the Associate Director of the Civil Justice Practice at Brooklyn Defenders. Our education unit provides legal representation and informal advocacy to our school-age clients and parents of children in New York City schools. A number of our clients are or have been incarcerated in juvenile detention facilities. We believe that children learn best when they're in their homes and not behind bars. The best way to provide educational supports to the young people we serve is to avoid putting them in detention and focus on diverting them from the criminal legal system altogether. For young people who are in detention, however, we believe the city must do more to improve the educational services they receive. Students who attend passages have long struggled to access high-quality educational services, and especially recently have sometimes been unable to access educational services at all. In contrast to some of what we heard earlier, at least one young person our office is working with at Crossroads reports he hasn't been to school since the start of the current school year. Another student reports he's frequently been receiving worksheets in place of live instruction. A young person at Horizon told us that his access to school has been inconsistent at best. In late October, he told us he'd been to school, by his estimation, 5 or 6 times. We thank the Council for passing Local Law 21 of 2024, which requires New York City Public Schools to report data that further sheds light on the issues with education and juvenile detention facilities. The recently released data indicates that students missed a huge number of school days last school year. ACS and New York City Public Schools must work together to ensure young people are able to attend school every day, as required by law. And the missed instructional time is particularly alarming considering the significant academic remediation and supports many students at passages require. Despite the need for special education services, we've heard that SEPs are delayed for a significant number of students, that fewer than 5 students enrolled at passages last year received their mandated triennial evaluations or their annual IEP reviews. And we've heard again today about transition services, and we also see that there's often a substantial delay in getting students back into school, and that connections with schools that might be appropriate for these students, like transfer schools, often come as just a recommendation to enroll in a transfer school rather than targeted support in doing that, in getting enrolled. So our written testimony will further elaborate on many suggestions for improved educational services. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you. No.
Thank you for your testimony. If we missed anyone who would like to testify in person, please visit the sergeant's table and complete a witness slip now. We will be moving to Zoom testimony. Once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you and the sergeant at arms will set the timer and give you the go-ahead to begin. Adriel Lewis.
You may begin.
Ochua Tizer.
You may begin.
Katie, right? Just come on up. Caitlin, sorry. You may begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Caitlin Greco. I'm Director of Prevention, Juvenile Justice, and Equity at CAFCA, or the Council of Family and Child Caring Agencies. We are the principal representative for nearly all nonprofits across the state who provide child welfare and juvenile justice services, including the 5 agencies that are contracted by ACS to provide close-to-home programming. I also really greatly appreciate the opportunity to add close-to-home programming to this conversation, as young people residing close to home are also receiving their education through passages. Providers have reported to us various barriers that have been impacting quality of education for young people in close to home. For instance, providers have reported that young people who are on the GED track have been put in classrooms on a self-paced computer program where the rest of the class is receiving instructor-led programming by the teacher. That's obviously very disruptive. It's also not going to help engagement for young people who are probably disengaged for years prior to close to home to school, right? Also, young people are looking for vocational opportunities to increase their skills so they're ready for the workforce when they leave close to home. So we have 4 recommendations that I wanted to raise today. One is that we provide GED instructors for all GED track students. 2, incorporate vocational programming into the school day. GED track students are required to be in a seat for 3.5 hours compared to high school and middle school track students who are required to be for 5.5 hours. Those 2 extra hours could be utilized for vocational programming for the GED students. 3, invest in career opportunities or career exposure opportunities for students. Providing different career exposure opportunities can increase school engagement and hope for the future. 4, expand partnerships with community-based organizations to enhance access to learning opportunities. Expanding investments and partnerships with community-based organizations will allow young people to access different learning opportunities in the communities they reside. It will also increase their support network once they transition back home to the community. And I'll also submit written testimony that further details everything.
I do have a question for you, just because I realized I didn't even access to ACS, but does the folks who are in close to homes, do they have access to the vocational training? You're just saying that it's not during the educational time, and that's
Correct.
why you're requesting that become an option?
Correct. So right now, it's really on the providers to create those partnerships, which they do, but it's really, the GED track students are having a hard time wanting to, participate in the GED program.
And they're usually in the same classroom as?
That's what providers have reported to me, that there's been times where the GED student is with another class, like a high school or a middle school class, who are receiving a teacher, led instructor.
So it's like they're off in the bag with the laptop,
Correct.
saying, like, do the work, and then there's an instructor.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That seems distracting.
Exactly. And also not going to increase engagement for a kid that's probably already disengaged, right?
Right. Okay, that's very helpful.
Yep.
Do you have any questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry we missed you. We didn't have your slip here, so we
It's
apologize
okay.
for that.
Thank you for letting me talk.
Did you submit your recommendations to us? Okay,
Thank you so much. Well, this concludes our hearing on today on juvenile and education and detention centers, but I just want to make sure that we say more openly that we need to be thinking about preventative services so that our young people are not ending up in detention and not having the crisis of being in overcrowded spaces. But we appreciate the work of both ACS and DOE because it is not an easy job and task that you're being handed to. But again, this is always about making sure that our kids have access to the highest standards that they deserve. So thank you all for being here today. And with that, I conclude this hearing.